tomorrow I will be live from a different location. Okay. Tomorrow I'll be live from a different location. We have some incredible interviews lined up in person, live and alive. Not going to Brazil. No, I am going to be I'm going to be trailing Bernard Sanders. That's right. I'm going to be trailing Bernard Sanders, seeing what this whole socialism stuff is all about. What's he talking about? What's he saying? We're going to be doing a live interview before his rally, and then also I'll be filming the rally as well, hopefully. And we'll get to interview some of the people there as well. But yeah, that's it. So that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. So get excited at that. You better not stop in Arkansas or whatever the fuck that chatter told you not to go. No, that was St. Louis. But yeah, you're kind of teetering on the verge of socialism, my guy, is what people say. But yeah, I'll be in Vegas. We are not going to be balling, unfortunately. We will not be balling. My man is busy, okay? My man is incredibly busy. I'm not going to be able to ball with the GOAT. But in any case, that's where we're at. Big news. Oh boy, huge news. Yeah. Play some craps at Bernie, please. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get Bernard to gamble. New merch when? New merch this Friday. That's right. New merch this Friday. More like Friday. Get your dollary dues out. Get your credit cards out. Get your pay stubs out. Go to a predatory payday lender and take a fat loan, because I'm about to dump some incredible merchandise on you. This one is obviously disinformation. This is the genre. Here's the last one. Narrative overcomes truth. Someone said BDS. Yes, do BDS on my merchandise. As always, Union made, America made. You already know what it is. But yeah, big day, big week for Hasanabi has. Yeah, I just took out a second mortgage on my home for the new merge. That's what I'm talking about. Do it. Merge drop of anti-capitalism. Not funny. Yes. Commerce and t-shirts, commodities being created. These are all aspects of capitalism. Famously, no other organization or structure of the economy could ever actually produce commerce or produce commodities in any meaningful capacity. Socialism means no t-shirt, famously. Anyway, I know. I'm going to talk about Turkey as well. Erdogan falsely imprisons rival Zelensky, ex-Trump, ex-Putin, updates as ceasefire is short-lived. Israel updates. Constituents are mad at GOP town halls. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Gameplay. Early access. Oh, JFK files. That's the other thing. God damn it, dude. That's like, there's so much going on. There is so much going on, dude. I can't believe I forgot about JFK files. I didn't actually forget about it. I've been reading up about it quite a bit this morning. But goddamn, a whole lot of nothing. I don't think it's a whole lot of nothing. Hungarian Revolution CIA backed. Oh my God, I can't believe it. What? You mean to tell me that the CIA was egging on color revolutions all around the world? No way. Oh, no way. I mean, two things can be correct at the same time. It goes back to the Ukrainian situation, and it goes back to like virtually every single color revolution that's taken place. There's true discontent that's happening. The United States of America and the CIA exit on, and they push for it, and they actively champion it. But that doesn't mean that there isn't real discontent. That doesn't mean that there isn't real anger and resentment from the population, and squashing any sort of counter-revolutionary behavior like that through violent means, through the military, is obviously not sustainable. Let's be real, okay? Hang on, you mean the tankies were right about the origin of the term tanky? Yeah, I don't, like, that's, ironically, that's where the Hungarian, Hungarian counter-revolution, or the Hungarian revolution, and the USSR utilizing tanks is unironically where the term tanky comes from. This was a big deal, especially in the UK, which have probably the worst socialist adjacent movements of all time, aside from the United States of America. But that's where the tanky term comes from. Anyway, do we have a blast off meme? Let's blast it off, and then we'll get into it. We'll get into all this stuff because there is so much to talk about. There is so much to cover. Oh boy, big news, big day, big drops. But yeah, causing. Also, there's the Serbian madness that's taking place as well. They made a Jon Stewart meme of you. Oh, that's funny. Okay, that's too inside baseball, but I'll allow it. All right, let's do it. Let's blast off. Let's get it twisted. Let's get it freaking twisted, dude. I know. I'm going to talk about Imamoglu. Okay, Turks, calm down. I know that there is no such thing as free press in your country. Okay, I know. I know that you literally have no way to learn about what the hell's going on in your goddamn country or talk about it. I will be talking about it here. Okay, I know. Yes, Imamoglu. Imam's son, the son of Imam, okay? We're going to talk about it. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. He was like the most popular opposition leader that Recep Tayyip Erdogan falsely has decided to imprison. It's just so stupid. It's so ridiculous. It's so obviously a power grab once again from a dude whose popularity obviously has been eviscerated due to his own dictatorial regimes, or due to his own dictatorial attitude. But yeah, holy moly, there's a massive rally taking place in Turkey right now. He's saying Ekrem, where Ekrem leader is under assault and in prison, we will not sleep. He says wherever he is, we're right by his side.
Onu Saraçhane'ye emanet etmiştir. Buradayız. Hep birlikte sahipleniyoruz.
Ekrem Başkan. He's a mayor. He's a mayor of Istanbul, but mayors are very important. They have like governor levels of power, especially the mayor of Istanbul is the most important, just so you guys understand. And he was seen as like the most popular opposition leader in Turkey to create a coalition that could finally topple the Erdogan regime through the democratic process. And that's precisely the reason why Recep Tayyip Erdogan has falsely decided to imprison him. Turkish politics is obviously always going to be a fucking clown show. Except, guess what? So is American politics. You're going to learn, okay? The things that we're watching in Turkey that Recep Tayyip Erdogan is doing, I'm going to be honest with you. Americans, watch closely. This is how it goes. This is how it works, okay? I'm letting you know right now, what's happening in Turkey today is going to be happening in America tomorrow, okay? America is Turkifying at an alarming rate, as I've said before. The Trump administration is Turkifying the United States of America. Little Orbans all around Europe, popping up left and right. And as you can see, this is a major coalition. While Imamoglu himself is, I think he's JFK, right? He's from the Social Democratic Party. You can see all of the flags. You got leftist parties out there. You got the Turkish Partisi like TIP. You have socialist and trade unionist Turkish parties there as well. And all the banners are out. This is the entirety of the coalition. And you know, this is a very, very, very frustrating situation for obviously the Turks who have been living under the incredibly cruel Erdogan regime for the past couple of decades. So JFK is the biggest social party in Europe. It's not what do you mean social? It's a social democratic party, and it's barely a social democratic party at this point. It's barely a party at this point. The opposition in and of itself is just basically not Erdogan. Okay, that's it. Erdogan has destroyed everything in the country. In any case, has the watermelon salesman's time run out? That's really funny that you guys are asking that question, because the watermelon salesman's time should have run out a long time ago. And yet he is truly the Teflon Don, okay? I don't know how to fucking explain it to you. Like, this guy has been able to withstand so much, the drama in the backdrop. In Turkey, you have to have a college diploma to retain certain positions in the government. What's ironic, of course, is that Recep Tayyip Erdogan doesn't have a real diploma, and everybody knows it, but it's more so like a fuck you're gonna do about it type situation. And yet he is now using that as a false justification to go after his main opposition leader, who is, of course, significantly more popular. I mean, he's probably the most popular opposition leader, and someone who could definitely overthrow Erdogan. Amına koyayım, was I know, ne I know, sen iddiaları okudun mu? Diploma sadece bir tane olay okudun mu suçlamaları? Niye okumuyorsun? Niye 3 sene önceden Cumhurbaşkanı adaylarını seçmek istedi CHP? Ben biliyorsun uşağıyım şeyin. İngilizlerin uşağıyım arkadaş. Ondan böyle söylüyorum. İsrail ve İngilizlerin uşağıyım. Anyway, I love when Recep Tayyip Erdogan defenders will come into this chat and try to speak in English and try to yell at me in English and the thing that they will try to do is like either A, claim that I am a servant of the British and a servant of Israel. I mean, the servant of the British one is the funniest one because, like, what kind of motion does England have, right? Like, Turks will say, some reactionary Turks will say, you are a servant of the British, which I think is really funny. But bir gün saying that the internet is slowed down in Turkey as well. Anyway, But yeah, I mean, Turkey is cooked again, once again. Here, let's take a look. Let's take a look at what's going on here, okay? You guys might be, this is, breaking news, but this is where you get the breaking news, especially when it comes to breaking news about Turkey. Aktroller her yerde seni bile bulmuş. Nerenin sağcısı da olsa ağzına sokarım laflarını, yani korkacak bir şey yok.
Opposition have defied a ban of protests. It was issued after the arrest of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's main political rival, the popular mayor of Istanbul, Ekrem İmamoğlu. Well, the protest ban,
which means the son of an imam. Okay. Anyway, listen. This guy is the mayor of Istanbul, and the mayor of Istanbul is a very important position in Turkish politics. It's not like fucking the mayor of New York, okay? It's not a real mayoral position in the way that it is in the United States of America. It's closer to a governor in terms of the awesome powers that and the leadership and the responsibility that this person has, considering that Istanbul is the largest city in Turkey. When you are the mayor, you have a high likelihood of maybe even one day becoming the president, right? So he is the mayor and the most popular leader in the opposition, right? He was detained falsely for, he had his diploma revoked for the past week. Recep Tayyip Erdogan's been talking about Ekrem İmamoğlu's diploma, okay, his college diploma. He's saying it's fraudulent. Now, it's not, right? But they've just been claiming that, and they basically were able to revoke his diploma and then imprison him and say that, your diploma that we stole from you is actually fake. And now for that reason, you're going to jail because you lied about your educational attainment in order to get this position. Now, in the past, there are a million different reasons and a million different ways in which the Turkish government has falsely imprisoned people. The most famous one initially was, you're PKK. If you're Kurdish, you're a part of the PKK. You support terrorism. You're going to jail. Okay. Then it evolved into, you're a part of the Fethullah Gülen movement. Fethullah Gülen he died, a American CIA asset from the same coalition that Recep Tayyip Erdogan is initially from as well. Right-wing Muslim cleric living in, or used to live in, a right-wing Muslim cleric that used to live in the Poconos, CIA asset, has a lot of fucking schools, has a movement, has a major movement, as a matter of fact, backed by the United States government, backed by the CIA, and some of the more famous people from his movement, of course, are NS Kontad. So you know exactly what these guys are doing. But sometimes Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his administration will point to people who actually were aligned with the Fethullah Gulen movement, and there was an entire parallel state. I'm not going to get into it, but there was a coup that failed. Erdogan seized control of even more power, declared martial law after the coup, and then did a referendum, changed the constitution of Turkey, made it a presidential instead of a parliamentary system as it was initially. So then now we get to the third movement, I guess, which is bullshit. This is now Erdogan claiming that your diploma is fake, and then revoking your diploma, and then putting you in fucking jail. Okay. Now, Americans might recognize some of these things that are happening. You might recognize, this is a Turkish CNN. Everything is right wing. I don't know what the Turkish channels and their political perspectives are, but I'm pretty sure, like, with the exception of a couple independent papers, they're all right wing. They're all privately owned. They're all basically pro regime. You can't really have like a newspaper, or you can't really have a newspaper or a media outlet that isn't like kind of pro regime. The Turkish government just shut down a whole donut chain because it was linked to FETÖ. That makes sense. So Halk TV, Sözcü TV, please pull them up. Okay, we're not gonna watch Turkish TV right now as I try to, like, in real time translate it to an American audience. Chatters. Türkler, arkadaşlar, burada ya bunlar Amerikalılar.
And issued by the governor of Istanbul came amid reports of the clampdown on social media platforms. The detention has occurred just days before the opposition figure was due to be announced as the presidential candidate for the Republican People's Party. Well, Mr. Imamoglu posted the following statement just before.
The Republican People's Party, by the way, is JFK, okay? That's what it is. That's the Social Democratic Party in Turkey. Just for Americans, before you think like, oh, what do you mean Republican? Like, no, it's not the same. That's supposed to be like the liberal left party, okay? But it's also weird because like Recep Tayyip Erdogan, despite being socially repressive and fairly right-wing and initially coming to power and doing a whole bit of privatization of state-owned enterprise, he has now basically been responsible over the course of the past decade or so, through this hyperinflation crisis that Turkey is exhibiting. He's been responsible for the massively expansive welfare state as well. So Turkish politics is very difficult to comprehend from the perspective of American politics, where you got liberals and you got Republicans, you got conservatives, you got Democrats. It's hard to frame it in the same way, because while Erdogan is incredibly right-wing and socially repressive, and his major constituency are a lot of reactionary hogs in Turkey, Erdogan's administration basically has expanded the welfare state quite frequently and in a quite significant capacity as well. That's where it is. It's like, it's odd. And also, they're technically pro-refugee because Erdogan is pro-refugee, and the left or liberal coalition is kind of anti-refugee as well. They don't like Syrian refugees. That also is a unique part of this process as well, because like Erdogan wants Syrian refugees to come into Turkey because he wants money from the European Union, which he got. He also wants a lot of the power that he gets from having like 6 million Syrian refugees in his country. He also gets to, control what's happening in Syria. Obviously, he did that recently, and that was a big, that was a big deal for him. And also in Turkey, liberals and not leftists, but like I would say liberals are very anti-Arab, because they think like they're very secular. So they see being Arab as how do I describe it? they see being Arab as like being lesser than being Turkish, like that Arabs are barbaric, and the feeling overall is that they're all super Muslim, and we don't like that. We don't like any sort of demonstration of Islam. So it's like there's a lot of racism there as well. Anyway, but this isn't to say that I think that Recep Tayyip Erdogan is a good person at all. He is not. He is a horrible, incredibly corrupt monster. Incredibly corrupt. Like Recep Tayyip Erdogan's corruption it makes like the Doge, Elon Musk, Donald Trump saga look like the most above board legal thing you've ever seen. Like Recep Tayyip Erdogan and I would say like Vladimir Putin, like these guys do corruption to a degree that is impossible to understand. Okay. You can't comprehend it with your Westoid brain is what I mean. They basically run their governments like a fucking fleshlight, okay? There are non-racist liberals too, for those who might take that statement as all liberals, but it's true there is racism to a degree. Yeah, exactly. There's, of course, it's a massive coalition of people that fucking range from like Kurdish parties, people that range from socialist parties all the way to like the most prominent social democratic party and even like former Erdogan parties, former Erdogan aligned parties that are also a part of the coalition against Erdogan. So it's massive. It's like basically on the one hand, you have Erdogan and you have the nationalist party, the ultra nationalists, right? These guys, the gray wolves. They're on the one side, they're the governing coalition in perpetuity. On the other side, you have the rest of the country that's like, dude, stop, pretty much. So there is no like real ideological consistency in that coalition beyond we just don't want fucking Erdogan to run the country anymore. Holy shit, he is so goddamn corrupt. So that's what it is.
Arrest.
I say with regret that
this guy is doing a this is Ekrem Imamoglu, by the way, the governor of Istanbul. He's doing a get ready with me as he's like, get ready with me as I go to prison for being falsely detained by the regime that is terrified of being unseated. Okay, that's how you do a get ready with me. All right, you see that, Democrats?
that a handful of minds are trying to usurp the will of our nation by abusing the police. The security forces of this country have massed at the door of my home, homes of 16 million Istanbulites. Hundreds of police are massed. We are facing bullying, but I want you to know that I won't be undaunted. I love you all so much. I entrust myself to my people. Let all our nation know that I will stand upright. I will continue to fight with that person and his mind, which uses this whole process like an apparatus.
So that was Ekrem Imamoglu speaking, issuing that statement just before his arrest. And of course, now we are seeing protesters out on the streets. So we are monitoring the live shot of that as well. But we know that supporters of this Turkish opposition have been defying what was a ban of protests. They are out on the streets. So a lot of fast-moving, developing situation when it comes to what is happening in Turkey. Let's cross over to Istanbul because Emily Wither joins us.
So this is a pro-Erdogan like regime news outlet, and he's trying to cover the situation. He's trying to cover it. And then the guys figure out what news outlet he's from and just beat the shit out of him. Bro, can you imagine? I mean, I'm not going to say anything. Never mind. I am not allowed. I am not at liberty to say how I feel about this. But hey, I disavow these Turks for doing this. Siktirin gidin lan. Ne yapıyorsunuz? Oh no. Oh my God. Okay. He says, we're not. Like who do you think you're kicking out of their position? I'm not moving. What are you doing? I'm not moving. That's what you're saying. Bro, the Turkish unks do not play around. Turkish unks do not play around, dude. Dayımayı ama dayıyorlar yani. Helal olsun, ne diyeyim?
Polislerin yanına geçeceğiz. Polislerin yanına geçeceğiz.
Yeah, he goes, I'm going next to the cops. I'm going next to the cops.
Polislerin yanına geçeceğiz. Gel. Sakin abi. Gel. Polislerin yanına geçeceğiz. Çıkın. Bir dakika. Evet, polislerin yanına geldik. Gördünüz. Canlı yayında getirdik ekranlarınıza, bakın. Hiç kimseyi provoke etmedik. Sadece yayınımızı yapıyorduk. Bize nasıl
bro, immediately dives into a crowd of cops and just and just goes, "Look, you see, we were just trying to do our regular news broadcast. Our ancestors slapped horses to death with their bare hands, lol. The Janissaries, yeah."
Herkes gördü bakın.
He's like, "Yeah, you see, everyone saw it live. They attacked
İşte
me."
bu
Are these guys pro Erdogan? No, the news outlet is pro Erdogan, super pro Erdogan. This is a regime television channel. Erdogan is a chameleon. He collaborated with the CHP when it was convenient to defang the military deep state, and with Gülen when it was convenient to access their network. Now it's with the ultra-nationalists. I mean, yeah, he just only cares about power and also making sure that he can use the government coffers as his personal wallet, you know?
aslında
Yeah, he goes, "This is now you can see who's really doing the provocation, who's doing the provoking here in real time on live news. You can
hiçbir
Yeah, we didn't do anything wrong. We're just live streaming and then they attacked
bizim
us."
etrafımıza polislerin arasına girdik. Bak
Here's the thing, okay? A lot of chatters, especially in America, are looking at this and going like, "What do you mean? What is their crime here? I don't understand." This is the way that Turkish people see these people is just an extension of Erdogan. Okay, a very significant extension of Erdogan. So everything that Erdogan does, they look at this guy and they go, "You are responsible for it because you're doing propaganda for it. Fuck you." Okay, it's a little different. It's not like a Republican guy or attacking like CNN or some shit like that. That's not. There's no comparison. Like the closest analog here would be One America News Network or something, and even then it's not the same. It's like you have no idea what it's like to be undermined and dominated and be fearful of being thrown into jail for basically 30 years at this point. This is like third world stuff. This is developing nation shit. You don't understand what that looks like in a place like the United States of America yet. You don't understand what it looks like in a place like the United States of America yet, because you are going to learn what it's like to exist in under the oppressive thumb of an authoritarian strongman doing whatever the fuck he wants to do and ruining the economy and ruining all hope. Yet is what I mean, because America is bouldering in that direction. Isn't this why Turkey's not in the EU? No, the real reason why Turkey's not. Yeah, European countries don't actually do riots regularly. Hello? What are you talking about? Which European country doesn't riot all the time? It's harder to figure out a European country that doesn't fucking riot. It's easier to figure out a European country that doesn't riot. Anyway, no, the real reason why Turkey is never going to be a part of the European Union is because it's 90 million Muslims and Europeans are insanely Islamophobic. That would never happen. Are you kidding me? They don't even like Polish people. What are you talking about? You think they're going to be open to Muslims? Get out of here. Yeah. It's not about riots, it's about democracy. It's not valid in Turkey. Yeah, sure, dude. Yeah, totally. The European nations definitely care about democracy. The fuck are you talking about? You got Hungary right there. Okay, shut up. Also, it has nothing to do with real democracy. That's just cope. Don't listen to any number of different reasons that like the EU claims Turkey can't join the EU. I'm telling you right now, it's not the repression. It's not the fact that it's not democratic or a true democracy. It is entirely because it's just a nation of Muslims. It is seen as a direct faucet of Muslim migration coming from all these scary places. That's what Erdogan used to his advantage as well when dealing with Europe for the longest time. He was like, yeah, you don't want to arrest this like Kurdish journalist in the Netherlands or whatever. Guess what? I will literally send 6 million Syrians to the Greek border right now. That was his weapon to wield against Europe. That was a big part of the reason why he was so pro Syrian refugees. That and because he got money. He'd be like, "Oh, dude, if you don't do my wishes, if you don't do my bidding, I will ship the Syrian migrants directly, the Syrian refugees directly to your doorstep." Yeah, they've seized all of his assets right here. Ekrem İmamoğlu ortağı oldu. İmamoğlu inşaata savcılık kararıyla el konuldu. They seized his company. This is his construction company that he is a partner in. He's a co-owner of. They seized his assets. They literally threw him in jail. It's just completely ridiculous. And yeah, it's just regular dictator shit, you know? This Erdogan guy seems like he would do great on corrupt talk. What the hell is corrupt talk? Yeah. Okay. Let's continue.
Live now. In a moment,
Does the EU say nothing? Yeah, Erdogan has the most motion right now in terms of foreign policy. So good luck. Like, they'll maybe lightly condemn, if they ever condemn him at all. This is the highest he has ever been in terms of his foreign policy. He hand-delivered Syria to America and Israel. He has continued delivering energy to Syria, or not Syria, sorry, to Israel through his son's logistics and shipping company, while simultaneously doing a BDS on Israel. Fake. Okay, they changed the manuscripts to make it seem like they're shipping stuff to Palestine when in fact they're actually directly shipping it to Israel. He is, I mean, yeah, he is saying that he's going to defend Zelensky. He took that aura farming photo with Zelensky with the umbrellas. Like, it's just, or manifest, not manuscript. Sorry, I said the wrong word. The shipping manifest. He is pro-Ukraine. He cooked Syria at the behest of NATO and America and Israel. This is the highest. He is enjoying tremendous amounts of support. The arc of history bends towards Erdogan. Yeah. So I don't think that the European leaders or anyone really is going to get that mad about Erdogan. As a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say the reason why he thinks he's capable of doing this without much pushback from European counterparts is because of the incredible plays he's made. He's like a playmaker, dude. This is like, if you got a superstar quarterback and I don't know, he's on the verge of winning your fourth Super Bowl for you, and you know, maybe he's got a little bit of a drug problem on the side. Maybe he beats his wife or whatever. People are gonna look in the other direction. They're gonna be like, "Come on, dude, he throws the football really good." That's the attitude. That is the attitude that people have towards Erdogan, other leaders have towards Erdogan, especially right now. What the F? Why am I following this fool? I'm out. I don't know. Why are you following me, Godfather? Maybe you'll learn a thing or two about politics, though, if you stay in.
We will get the very latest from her, but just a little bit of background to this, because Turkish prosecutors have spoken since that statement by Ekrem İmamoğlu. They have said that Mr. İmamoğlu has been charged with being head of a criminal organization and also of bribery and extortion. They say that there are also local reports that he's accused of aiding the...
All of the... Yeah. Oh, they hit him with the PKK too? Nice. Bro, there is something really funny about Recep Tayyip Erdogan saying that Ekrem İmamoğlu is aiding the PKK, which is a classic. Trump is doing that right now, saying that all undocumented immigrants are actually terrorists. If you support Palestine, you're a terrorist. You're getting shipped out of this country. That's what Erdogan always has done, right? Saying, oh, you're PKK. Oh, you're Fethullah Gülen. Now, what's funny about it, especially saying this right now, is that Erdogan is the officially most pro-PKK guy out there. His coalition literally brought Öcalan, Abdullah Öcalan, the leader of the PKK that has been arrested, life in prison, living on a fucking island, okay? They literally talked to him and told him to do a call to put down your arms to all Kurdish revolutionary groups. Okay, that happened like a month ago. So for him to turn around and be like, and this guy's pro PKK, fuck him, is really funny. Like you literally did a treaty with the PKK like last week. What do you mean this guy's pro PKK?
The banned Kurdish Workers' Party, an organisation that is banned in Turkey. And they say that over 100 others have been detained as part of the same probe. Mr. Imamoglu's party, the CHP, have said that his detention marks a coup attempt against our next president. We know that there is...
Dude, things are so weird in Turkey, okay? The ultra-nationalists that were designed by NATO and the CIA, by the way, which shouts out to the JFK files. It was really funny reading like the CIA operations at the time. The ultranationalists who are fucking straight up fascists and the paramilitary groups that they created with the CIA, okay, through NATO, made became a formative political movement in the country, in Turkey, because they would kill Kurds. They were squashing any matter of like socialist revolutionary activity in my country. They were killing Kurdish revolutionaries. And now the fucking leader of the MHP, the ultranationalist party, is fucking pro PKK. It makes no sense. It's just insane. It's like the Klan coming out and being like, you know what? The Black Panther Party had some really good ideas. We're actually aligning with the Black Panther Party. That's what it's like to have the fucking ultra-nationalist leader of the ultra-nationalist party come out and be like, yeah, no, this guy, Abdullah Öcalan, we're gonna do nation building. We're gonna do nation building. We're gonna do the we're gonna help these Kurds is akin to, no, not like a Latino for Trump. It's significantly more insane than that, okay? I'm telling you, it's like the Klan coming out and being like, we are pro Black Panther Party now. Okay, we're pro Black Panther Party. We're pro Jewish people. We're pro gays. It's like that.
An election coming up, and that Recep Tayyip Erdogan, after his many years in power, will not be able to stand for re-election. So a fluid situation in Turkey. We can cross over live, as promised, to our correspondent there, Emily Wither, who joins us from Istanbul. Emily, I think it's important.
Yeah, in 1998, when Erdogan was the mayor of Istanbul, his son Burak Erdogan, who has been living in the U.S. for over 2 decades, hit a singer with his car after running a red light and killed her. The city cleaning employees cleaned the crime scene right after. He didn't get arrested or anything. Yeah. I think bu Şişli'de oldu değil mi? Nerede? Ya nerede? Recep Tayyip Erdogan taking stuff from... Yeah, Şişli. This is literally this happened like right down the street from where I used to live in Istanbul. I know. I know exactly where it happened. Yeah, I mean, this is classic stuff. This is classic Erdogan shit. This is not even scratching the surface. Like, this heinous crime and its cover-up, which is a crime in and of itself, is not even scratching the surface of the rampant corruption from the Erdogan regime.
Important, just remind us what is happening on the ground, because despite a ban, people are out on the streets.
That's right. We are seeing some small protests now in Istanbul outside the office. And
can I go back to Turkey? No, I can't. Not until this stuff gets cleared up. No,
a university here. Those university protests have already been broken up by the police. I should say that the protests now are very small. The authorities are doing everything they can to make sure that people do not gather on the streets here. They've closed many major roads into the city. They have closed down popular metro stops. They have restricted the use of social media for some popular apps. And they have also banned any rallies or protests here for the next 4 days. Whether we see larger numbers coming out onto the streets despite all of those risks, we'll just have to see. In the past, we have seen people gathering on their balconies or gathering at their windows and banging pots and pans in protest. We might see that later on this evening. But at the moment, this is a city braced now to see whether these protests get any larger.
And Emily, just remind us why Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey, why he feels so threatened by the mayor of Istanbul.
The mayor of Istanbul is incredibly charismatic and he's incredibly popular. In many polls, it shows that Erdogan is pretty...
Glaze, but true. Glazed, but also kind of true.
Much neck and neck with Ekrem Imamoglu. He was due to have a big rally today in support for his presidential candidacy.
Well, yeah, this is old news at this point. This is from a couple hours ago. Yeah, it's from 4 hours ago. We literally watched the mass mobilization take place when I first started.
Which is due to be announced in the coming days. The opposition were going to name him as their future presidential candidate. And I should say that critics here are saying that this crackdown could backfire on Erdogan, because in 2019, when Ekrem Imamoglu won the mayor elections here, Erdogan's government said that those elections were rigged and they called for a rerun. In that rerun, Imamoglu came out even more popular, so it could be that this crackdown sees the mayor gaining even more votes. He's very popular across the political divide, and he is seen as a key challenger to Tayyip Erdogan. And this has been going on for months now. The government here has been cracking down on opposition figures for some time. They have been arresting opposition mayors, journalists and business leaders. And I think what's interesting is there has been very little international condemnation of that. So it could be that
Stream doesn't feel choppy today? Yeah, I fixed it. That's why it doesn't feel choppy. Hopefully it doesn't break again. But
President Erdogan is also gambling that the arrest of this mayor will also go by unnoticed, given Turkey's strategic importance at the moment.
Emily, thank you very much for bringing us up to date there.
Yeah. For the record, Ekrem Imamoglu is rising in popularity as Erdogan's popularity is finally coming to a close. So for that reason, this is the reason why. This is what weak leadership does, okay? No matter what their political alignment is, this is what weak leadership does. Weak leadership arrests. This is, you arrest your opposition when they're gaining popularity because you got no motion.
This is Ekrem Imamoglu, mayor of Istanbul and the main political rival to Turkey's President Erdogan. He's getting ready not for his latest speech or a mayoral visit, but for the police, who are on his doorstep, primed to arrest him. He was detained this morning at his family home, accused of corruption and aiding a terrorist group. Last year, Imamoglu won a second term as Istanbul's mayor when his party swept local elections. It was the first time Erdogan was defeated across the country in his 22-year presidency. Imamoglu's arrest, along with 100 others today, comes just days before he was due to be selected by the opposition Republican People's Party as their presidential candidate, to one day run against Erdogan. Turkey's government denied any involvement in the arrest.
I believe this motherfucker's been in power for 22. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is partially the reason why I hate Donald Trump so much, because like he's so goddamn Erdogan coded. Like it's just The
opposition party leader condemned the arrest as an attempted coup.
Xi did it first by abolishing term limits. How dare you? How dare you compare Recep Tayyip Erdogan to Xi Jinping? Look at China's trajectory under the glorious leadership of Xi Jinping versus the Turkish politics. Look at Turkish politics. Look at the lira. Okay? That's insane. It's not even remotely comparable. Imagine having a competent leadership. Oh my God, that would be so sick. So dictatorship is fine as long as the country does well? Yes. At this point, yeah, FDR, okay? FDR is a dictator, is the energy that you're presenting here, and I would fucking die for an FDR. Oh my God, here in America, or in Turkey, or anywhere really. Fuck it, yes.
Imamoglu's arrest follows a stripping of his Istanbul University degree yesterday for alleged irregularities. Turkey requires...
You're a hypocrite, fuck kings. Shut up. I don't want to hear from anarchitties in the chat right now, okay? Go take a shower. Go take a shower. Go take a shower. Go take a shower. Go take a shower.
As all candidates...
It's shower time for you, okay? Go deal with ACAB includes teachers too type shit, okay? Go write another tweet about how ACAB includes teachers as well, by the way. We must abolish all unjustifiable hierarchies.
A university degree. Almost in anticipation of the reaction, Istanbul's governor banned protests in the city. Yet students from the university came out in their hundreds, some struck with pepper spray as they clashed with police. Erdogan's government
Lira is fine, bro. Diamond hands. Yeah.
has denied targeting its opponents and says the country's legal system is independent. That, once again, has been called into question today, with President Erdogan further strengthening his grip on power at the expense of his closest rivals.
This is on.
There's one more article that I want to cover as well. Here's the Democracy Now piece on it as well. This is from Dropsite. Turkish police arrested Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, and a key opposition figure early this morning as a part of the sweeping investigation into alleged corruption, terrorism links, and leading a criminal organization. Everything that they're saying is a lie. Okay, I can't, like, it's so weird to talk about the country that I grew up in and draw a direct parallel to the country that I now live in, but it is almost one-to-one identical. Okay? They just make shit up. That's it. They just make shit up, and then they go, you're going to jail. That's what's going on in Turkey right now. Okay? It must be you at this point, no? Yeah, no, I'm responsible for this. Okay? Yeah, I did this. Sorry, guys. My bad. Alongside Imamoglu, around 100 others, including political allies, journalists, and business figures, were also detained in connection to the probe. The arrests have heightened political tensions in the country and come just days before Imamoglu was expected to be named the Republican People's Party, JFK's, candidate for the presidency. Okay? Authorities imposed a 4-day ban on protests in Istanbul and restricted access, which is what you do when you have a popular democratic movement. That's what you famously do. Okay? Famously, when you have a popular democratic movement with the mandate from the people, dare I say, a mandate from God, okay, the heavens mandate, this is what you famously do. You arrest virtually every single person that is against you, that has any sort of motion whatsoever, and then you turn around and say, it's illegal to protest now, which obviously didn't stop people from protesting. This should give you an idea of how popular Imamoglu is. What? Yeah, they got the Taser Coalition. They got the grannies. They got the unks. They got it all. Anyway, where were we? Hold on. Oh, here it is. The crackdown coincides with the invalidation of Imamoglu's university degree, a legal requirement for presidential candidacy, raising further concerns about efforts to block his political ambitions. This arrest is seen as a part of a broader campaign targeting dissenters and opposition leaders in Turkey. So, yeah, you have to have a college degree to be able to become a presidential candidate, which is ironic because it's like a known secret that Recep Tayyip Erdogan does not have a real college degree in Turkey. So it's pretty fucking ironic that they are, doing this. That's the reason. That's the angle that they're taking. Recep Tayyip Erdogan does not have a real college degree. It's not even a secret. Everybody knows it. And yet that's not a real point of concern or consideration at all. Yeah, he graduated the year the faculty opened.
Police have arrested Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu on what his supporters say are trumped-up corruption charges ahead of primary elections scheduled for Sunday. İmamoğlu is a major challenger to Turkey's authoritarian president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. In 2022, he was found guilty of insulting public officials and sentenced to prison, but has remained free pending an appeal. Turkish police also arrested 100 other people, including one of İmamoğlu's close aides. Authorities have also closed roads around Istanbul and banned protest in the city for 4 days, while restricting access to social media sites.
Anyway, so that's the situation in Turkey. Totally cooked. Totally cooked. And Erdogan basically did this at a time when he has like the most motion with Trump, which is a sympathetic figure to Erdogan, in power in the United States of America, coming off of the heels of the massive victory that he delivered to Western powers in Syria. So for him, this is a fairly opportune moment to strike because he's got a lot of motion on the global stage. So yeah, I thought you said Turkish elections were free. Does this make them a dictatorship the same way Russia is? Well, the fact that that guy that he just arrested, it won the mayoral race is the proof of what I was explaining. They do actually arrest a lot of people, for sure. I always say Turkish elections are free. They're just not fair. Okay? Like, no, it's not a quote unquote free. I'm telling you, Turkish elections are free. They're not fair. Like, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's like Russia even, where it's a sham altogether. Like, the Russian elections are completely made up, right? It's just ridiculous. All the opposition parties are also there at the behest of Vladimir Putin, whereas Turkey does have a viable opposition that is fairly, like, that's near 50% popularity across the board. Erdogan is better than any other opposition. What? Erdogan El Ataturk. Heydo. Erdogan is better than any other option. Atatürk, it's literally a terrorist. I don't see anything wrong with that. Erdogan is better than any other opposition. Yeah, okay, bro. Okay. Sure. Yeah. This is the classic unconditional Ummah supporter in the chat being like, you don't understand. This man is the real caliphate, okay? This man is restoring glory to the Ummah. I promise. You're a fucking idiot, dude. Erdogan sucks the penis of Israel harder than any other fucking regional leader. He sucks Benjamin Netanyahu so hard, he makes Mohammed bin Salman blush, okay? And you're over here being like, oh, he is the glorious protector of all Sunnis in the land. Yeah, suck my dick, okay? You don't know anything. Shut up. There are so many like Pakistani dudes out there that just think that he is this incredible defender of the Islam around the world, you know? Especially with like the Syria shit, I think they really like him now. Anyway, Somalis think that too. Yeah, that makes sense. Turkey has a really good relationship with Somalia, so it's just like, what is the problem? It looks like Turkey's getting some USA freedom. Turkey maintains American nukes in American bases inside of Turkey. Turkey has never had a moment where it didn't have that USA style freedom. Turkey is a NATO country. It's the second largest standing military in NATO. That's the reason why Erdogan gets to do whatever the fuck he wants. Okay. And yeah, no, you're ridiculous if you think that if you think that Turkey has never had a moment where it was free of USA style freedom.
Only the beginning.
Anyway, so funny. Turkish chatter in the chat going, what's the volume thing that you use? It's called Volume Master. How about you worry about the fucking lira and the fact that the regime that you exist under is crippling the last bastion of like any sort of democratic resistance. This motherfucker's out here being like, what is the Volume Master that you use? What is the volume extension that you use, bro? Your country is on fire, okay? Calm down about the extension. Anyway.
Of Israel's.
Now let's move on to another incredibly democratic country. Of course, the most democratic country of all time, the most moral democracy of all time, Israel.
Renewed offensive, according to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But for Palestinians in Gaza, it's the return to a nightmare. Digging through rubble to recover bodies, ferrying the dead and wounded to already depleted hospitals. Prayers.
Yeah, here's Israel's new defense minister. After the former one had some back and forth, some friction with Netanyahu, even though the former one is currently has an active arrest warrant for being a war criminal, Yoav Gallant. The new one is Defense Minister Katz. And just like the previous one, he came out and said he's going to actively target civilians, which again is a war crime. But also, what the fuck are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Who's going to say, hey, can you not do war crimes, please? You can't. There's no one that will be like, hey, this sounds a lot like you're doing a genocide. I don't think that is appropriate. Please, can you stop doing a genocide, you know? Another good guy, if you will. Here, let's hear what he has to say. Okay, it's in Hebrew. Residents of Gaza, this is your final warning. The first Sinwar destroyed Gaza, and the second Sinwar will bring upon it total ruin. The Israeli Air Force's attacks against Hamas terrorists was only the first step. What follows will be far harsher, and you will bear the full cost. Evacuation of the population from combat zones will soon resume. If all Israeli hostages are not released and Hamas is not kicked out of Gaza, Israel will act with force you have not known before. Take the advice of the U.S. president. Return the hostages and kick out Hamas, and new options will be open for you, including relocation to other parts of the world for those who choose. The alternative is destruction and total devastation. This basically is the final solution. He's saying it's the final solution time. If we actually don't ethnically displace you, then we're just going to ethnically cleanse you from the land. That is what he is saying. This is the defense minister, for the record, of the most moral army and the most moral military of the most moral democracy on the planet, Israel. Very not so subtle words here.
And mourning.
I lost my whole family. I got married recently in 2023. God honored me with Muhammad, who was so beautiful, and my wife was pregnant. She was martyred while she was pregnant. My son was martyred too.
The second night in a row, Israel struck several targets across the Gaza Strip, including this makeshift camp in Han Yunis.
I want to tell Benjamin Netanyahu that it is not manly to attack civilians in their tents. Manly is to find the soldiers in the fields.
Israel Defense Forces say they are targeting Hamas command centres and in the last 24 hours have issued evacuation.
This is the piece of shit Arab spokesperson for the Israeli occupying force. God, I know all these fucking villains now. It shouldn't happen, but yeah, all the while, the IDF have began targeted ground activities in central and southern Gaza over the past day in order to expand the security zone and to create a partial buffer between northern and southern Gaza. As part of the ground activities, the troops expanded their control further to the center of the Netzarim corridor. Netzarim is the one that crosses across the Gaza Strip, separates the south and the north. Simultaneously, it is decided that the Golani Brigade would be stationed in the southern command area and remain ready for operations in Gaza. The IDF will continue to operate against terrorist organizations in Gaza to protect the civilians, to protect the citizens in the state of Israel. Oh, God. Oh, no. That's the scariest thing you can ever hear from an Israeli is we have security concerns. That means ethnic cleansing is back on the menu. Whenever an official Israeli politician says we have security concerns, know that bombs are about to drop. Know that genocide is back on.
Orders affecting nearly 100,000 Palestinians, raising concerns of another ground operation. While in Israel, resentment towards the government is pouring into the streets. Thousands marched towards the Knesset on Wednesday.
It's not lost on me, once again, that the opposition to the Benjamin Netanyahu government is still waving the flags of Israel. This is important to understand. Think about the opposition in the United States of America, okay? Think about the opposition to the Trump administration in the U.S. Think about the opposition to previous administrations in the U.S. Who is the one that raises American banners and American flags? What is their attitude? I'm trying to get you Americans and those in the Western world to understand that this right here implies that they're not totally against Benjamin Netanyahu's actions. They're just against Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay?
Accusing Netanyahu of resuming the war for political gains. It is the second day of protests, with many worrying he is further endangering the 24 hostages still believed alive. And outraged by his attempts to fire the head of Israel's internal security service, the Shin Bet.
We want to be a democracy, and we are...
Crime minister. Okay, that's a fire hoodie.
On the way to dictatorship.
And the hostages are still in the tunnels, and we want them home now.
Public opinion polls in Israel show support.
I just feel like the media is saying that Hamas didn't want to negotiate. I feel like we're being gaslit about the ceasefire deal. As you said, there was a phase 2 and 3. Why did Israel break? Why are people okay with that? Yeah, no, it's a lie. When Israel says Hamas is not negotiating with us, they're lying. That's just an abject lie. Think about it this way. Israel violated the ceasefire even on phase 1 with no intention of ever moving to phase 2 or 3, right? And even then, there was no retaliation from Hamas in that process. No retaliation whatsoever. And then they just basically decided it's over. It's completely over. We're just going to go back to full-blown ethnic cleansing and immediately killed hundreds of Palestinians, 180 children that they slaughtered overnight. It's been the same exact lie that they've retold over and over again with no with no pushback from Western leadership against these lies. As a matter of fact, the Biden administration actively supported this lie. They lied at the behest of Israel over and over again. They actually overextended their lies so much that Benjamin Netanyahu fearing political backlash from his coalition of even more further right neo-Nazis, decided to actively undermine the Biden administration. Whenever Anthony Blinken would be like, no, this is Israel's deal, Bibi would come out and be like, it's not. I hate this deal. I don't want to do this deal at all.
For a second stage of the ceasefire, but Netanyahu has all but ruled out a return to peace, saying on Tuesday that future negotiations with Hamas will take place only under fire.
Breaking news, a judge rules to move.
So, yeah, there was some drama with Netanyahu personally for firing the leader of the Shin Bet. Shin Bet is the interior security. It's like the FBI, basically, like the National Security Intelligence Agency of Israel. And Mossad is CIA, Shin Bet is like FBI. Okay, it's reductive, but that's kind of what it is. And after he did that, because of a back and forth over, I believe it was over October 7 as well as some other reasons, the government called him. The government wanted to conduct an inquiry into why he had unceremoniously fired the head of the Shin Bet. And Benjamin Netanyahu started dropping bombs that night, and of course the inquiry was canceled. Is this the woke one? There is no woke one. There is no woke group in Israel. Like that's why most of the opposition is still, very on board with continuing bombing, but they just want the hostages back, or they don't like Benjamin Netanyahu. They don't have an issue with. Like, if you want to understand the opposition in Israel, look at like Yair Lapid. Look at the quote unquote centrists in positions of power and the way that and the way that they operate. Like when the ICC came down on Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, they literally called the ICC anti-Semitic. Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, considers it woke leftists and a deep state agenda. Here it is. Shin Bet and police investigating for weeks allegations that some of Netanyahu's aides were on the Qatari payroll. This evening, 2 suspects arrested over contact with foreign agent plus money laundering. This is Netanyahu's reaction. In America and in Israel, when a strong right-wing leader wins an election, the leftist deep state weaponizes the justice system to thwart the people's will. They won't win in either place. We stand strong together. He's like, they're coming after me, but they want to come after you. I'm just in the way. He's doing the Donald Trump line. But yeah. It's not that different. They're generally less corrupt than Bibi. It's time for a change of leadership in Israel. Yeah, they want they're process libs in the same way that our liberals are here as well. So yeah, like I'll explain it to you like this: liberal Zionists in Israel, or even like the Shin Bet, right? They have valid security concerns that they recognize. So they'll oftentimes come to Benjamin Netanyahu and say, "Hey, can you stop working alongside Itamar Ben-Gvir in really doing these pogroms in the West Bank? Because every time you do a pogrom in the West Bank, you're moving military resources away from the Gaza envelope and moving it into the West Bank. And also you're pissing off the Palestinians. And when you piss off the Palestinians, Hamas is getting angrier and angrier and sees just cause for retaliation. You are going to collapse the delicate security apparatus that we've cultivated in our apartheid state." They're saying that not because they want to end the apartheid state. They're saying that because they want to maintain the apartheid state with a decent amount of security. Some liberal Zionists will look to the West Bank and the pogroms and say, that's gross. Why do they say that? Well, because they understand that in the Western world, that plays really poorly. Because that's the type of clan-style activity that like even Westerners can understand. Okay? But overall, nobody fully, like with the exception of a very small group of people, like dedicated anti-Zionists, almost all of them I've had on this fucking broadcast, there's no real, genuine anti-Zionist movement, especially amongst Israeli Jews. And the Palestinian citizens of Israel, which comprise 25% of the Israeli population. By the way, when I say Israeli Jews, that's not my interpretation. It is the demographic association that Israel has designed, because it's a Jewish ethno-state, a Jewish religious supremacist ethno-state. So it's their own designation that I'm using in this circumstance. There are plenty of Arab Jews as well in Israel. They're just not considered Arab. Arab is considered second-class citizen. So yes, there are Marxists. I know personally. No, I know. But they're a small, incredibly small number of people, and most of them are in here. That's what I'm talking about. So most of the opposition against the Netanyahu administration in Israel is, of course, still very much in support of a lot of the violence and the cruelty that the Israeli government subjects Palestinians to. They just want to not erode their civil liberties. Like, you know, they want to be gay. They want to be a gay apartheid state. They don't want to be an anti-apartheid state. And they don't want to abolish the apartheid. They just want to still be gay. So that's a somewhat reductive way to explain the process here. So I have long maintained the position that if you want to stop the insane reactionary support, you have to address and tackle and dismantle the apartheid, because the apartheid justifies the existence of the Jewish Power Party and many other more reactionary forces in Israeli politics. And because the overwhelming majority of liberal Zionists in Israel don't want to reckon with that issue, they just kind of put their hands up in the air and go, how the fuck did we get here? I don't understand. Well, that's how you got here. A interesting analog to what we have experienced with the Democratic Party's lackluster opposition to the Republicans undermining the administrative apparatus, undermining the administrative state, and doing a metric ton of awful fascist things here in the United States of America, which the Democrats are not doing a good job tackling or criticizing, partially because there are a lot of Democrats that just want stability, no matter what the cost is. And also on top of that, there's a lot of Democrats that like the things that the Trump administration is doing. They're just too cowardly to openly state that they like the things that the Trump administration is doing. But it's great that they can maintain moral high ground while simultaneously, doing like the most cowardly, feckless little I don't like what you're doing style opposition towards the Republicans. So, yeah, they care about prices stabilizing. All right. Speaking of America and the Burger Reich undermining American democracy, once again, Mahmoud Khalil's case should be moved to New Jersey. The judge rules. Okay, let's take a look.
Mahmoud Khalil's case to New Jersey. He is a Columbia University graduate detained by the government over his participation in pro-Palestinian demonstrations. Alice Gaynor covers courts and is here now with more details.
Cindy, the government wanted the case to play out in Louisiana. Mahmoud Khalil wanted it in New York. Simply put, the federal judge in the Southern District of New York said Khalil filed his petition in the wrong district through no fault of his own. Khalil's attorney, the judge noted, was relying on information made available by the government at the time about his location.
You're going to be under arrest, so turn around.
On March 8th, ICE took Mahmoud Khalil into custody at Columbia University campus housing and brought him to a New York field office. He was eventually transported to a detention facility in Elizabeth, New Jersey, then flown to Louisiana. A federal judge in the Southern District of New York ruled that because Khalil's attorney filed a petition on his behalf at 4:40 a.m. while detained in New Jersey, a straightforward application of the District of Confinement and Immediate Custodian rules therefore dictates that Khalil's petition should have been filed in the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey, not in this court. Khalil's petition questions the detention of the green card holder who is married to an American citizen. The judge noted in the order, many of the facts in this case are hotly contested. Khalil's petition, the judge says, depicts him as an outspoken but peaceful leader of student protests held at Columbia University against Israel's actions in Gaza since the atrocities of October 7, 2023. And that the government, by contrast, describes Khalil as leading activities aligned to Hamas, siding with terrorists, and a threat to the foreign policy and national interests of the United States. On Face the Nation Sunday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was asked repeatedly if there was any evidence of a link to terrorism.
I'm asking about the specific justification for the revocation of his visa. Was there any evidence of material support for terrorism?
Was the negotiator negotiating on behalf of people that took over a campus, that vandalized buildings? Negotiating over what?
A French researcher was detained on arrival in the U.S., his computer and phone confiscated and searched, and his text criticizing Trump cuts to scientific research were deemed by DHS agents as a hatred of Trump that could be described as terrorism. He was deported the next day. According to a diplomatic source to the AFP, the incident occurred on March 9th. The space researcher was reportedly subject to a random check upon arrival, during which his work computer and personal phones were searched. The same source also reported that messages discussing the Trump administration's treatment of scientists were found. He was reportedly accused of messages that reflect hatred toward Trump and can be described as terrorism. His professional and personal equipment was reportedly confiscated, and the researcher was sent back to Europe the next day. According to another source briefed on the case to AFP, the French researcher was accused by the American authorities of hateful and conspiratorial messages. He was reportedly informed of an FBI investigation for which charges were dropped, the source continued. I'm telling you right now, it's already happening, and I've been saying that. It's being mean to Trump is terrorism, okay? But hey, guess what, dude? There's a high bar, right, to let people into this country. If you have mean thoughts about Trump, good luck. You can't come into the country. Yeah, based. I don't want someone who doesn't like my glorious leader to be in the country. Based. You're a non-citizen. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. That's what I say. Yeah. Well. If you don't like the president, then you can't come into the country. That's right. Based. I love free speech, by the way. Except unless it's non-citizens who think mean thoughts about Trump, then I don't like free speech. Yeah. Fuck around and find out. How dare you? How dare you think mean thoughts about my glorious president? I'm a centrist. Apoliticals, rise up. Just common sense. Yeah. Just doing my common sense. Yeah. We have enough troublemakers in the country. That's terrorism. Why? I've decided it was. It's the case. It's the case. It's good stuff. If you don't like it, just change the law. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Should have taken a fucking big-ass gulp out of my Dr. Pepper, extra large Dr. Pepper in between.
That's a crime in and of itself, that they're involved in being the negotiator, the spokesperson, this, that, the other. We don't want it. We don't need these people in our country.
In a letter dictated by phone from the detention facility in Louisiana, Khalil described himself as a political prisoner, that the Trump administration is targeting me as part of a broader strategy to suppress dissent.
Here's the article in French. United States, French researcher expelled by Le Monde. French researcher expelled for expressing a personal opinion on the policies pursued by the Trump administration. This is the article. Le Monde. Le Monde. Wait. Yeah. Why don't you speak American?
So it will be up to the court in New Jersey to consider Khalil's motions, like the motion to transfer him from Louisiana to a detention facility in this district and a motion for release on bail. Cindy.
Alice, thank you. And stay with CBS News New York for any new developments in this case. Look for our previous reports on our website, cbsnewyork.com.
President Trump, he says that he made progress in the efforts to end the war in Ukraine. In a long phone call yesterday with Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader did not agree to Trump's 30-day ceasefire proposal supported by Ukraine. Instead, Putin made his own proposal as both.
Our work at a Big Ten uni, we've been having our foreign students having their phones in uni own PC confiscated. Trump also pulls them 100 million following. Wait, what? Isn't your America fucks one singular thing is free speech? Okay. I need you to understand something. Historically speaking, free speech has never really been afforded to radical leftist, socialist, communist movements in this country. If you want to fight for civil liberties for black people, no free speech for you. We'll assassinate you. If you do anti-war protests, no free speech for you. We'll do Kent State. So there are plenty of examples like the Red Scare, McCarthyist trials, all that stuff, where people have been falsely imprisoned for speech. People have been blackballed and blacklisted by the federal government for free speech. Having said that, however, this is a continuation of that proud American tradition and a continuation of that tradition in a way that is truly devastating. Because if you look at, the past 20 years, if you look at 2001 in the aftermath of 9/11, obviously, the American government, actively undermined free speech, free expression, free demonstration, all that stuff against Muslims in general as it was doing the war on terror. But this now, like the stage that we have arrived at now is basically punishing people for thought crimes, like the way that you understand silly-ass dictatorships to operate, both in movies and also in the real world. This is like we are officially now in the pocket of straightforward fascism. Like, that's when you start claiming that like people that are peacefully protesting are terrorists and offering material support for terrorists. When you start claiming that people who have said, I don't like the way Donald Trump is cutting funding for research, that is an act of terror that bars you entry into the United States of America. When all of that, when stuff like that is being considered terrorism, which is used as a catch-all term to violate people's due process, to violate people's free speech, at that stage, you're officially done. You know, we're and I said this a couple months back. If you remember, I was talking about how as American power, I tweeted about it as well, if someone can find it. As American power on the global stage wanes, you will see how little they care about free speech. This is partially the reason why it's happening, because American power is falling apart. America can only present itself as having free speech because it's been the hegemonic superpower, right? And the less stable the United States of America gets, the worse, the more aggressive the American government will get in terms of stamping out any sort of protest, any sort of dissent. And this will eventually move in the direction that you saw with Recep Tayyip Erdogan as well. Does anyone have that tweet of me calling this out a while back in terms of like suppressing speech? Maybe someone have found it. Weak dick, no motion fascism. Oh, here, yeah, this is it. As U.S. hegemony ends, you will see limitations of free speech in more egregious ways. You only get to have limited permissible critique when you're the only dominant power in the world. There was always a limit to free speech, Red Scare, civil rights, BDS. Now that limit's over. There it is. Thank you for finding it. I'm going to retweet this. I'm going to like my own tweet and retweet it. So you're saying we're fucked and there's little hope? No, mass mobilization will occur, I think. That's what I'm relying on. That's what I'm hoping for. So far, though, the liberal opposition has not done anything to mobilize. Self-like and self-tweet like biblical pride. Listen, man, if I cooked so hard back then, I'm gonna like my own tweet. I'm like, damn, I cook right there. All right. All right. So getting back to the situation here. Oh, in terms of free speech restrictions, of course, Ben & Jerry's says his CEO was fired for the company's political posts. Ben & Jerry's is accusing its parent company Unilever of breaching its merger agreement by ousting the ice cream company's CEO over the brand's repeated public comments on progressive issues, removing its chief executive without the board's approval. It's the latest escalation of an increasingly ugly dispute between the brand and its conglomerate owner that began in 2021. In an amendment complaint filed Tuesday in New York, lawyers for the ice cream brand said that rules stemming from the 2000 merger protects Ben & Jerry's interest by precluding the unilateral removal of its CEO, but Unilever did just that, removing and replacing CEO David Stever by not following the proper protocols, and said it was because of the brand's continued comments on progressive issues. Ben & Jerry's is also pro-Palestine, for those of you who don't know, and lo and behold, they're owned by two Jewish men, Jewish anti-Zionists. The lawsuit said that Unilever's motive for the removal of Stever was due to his commitment to Ben & Jerry's social mission and essential brand integrity, rather than any genuine concerns regarding his performance history. Unilever didn't immediately respond to CNN's request for comment. The UK company announced in March 2024 it was looking to sell Ben & Jerry's and its other ice cream brands. It has not yet completed a deal. Tuesday's complaint is the latest in a string of them against Unilever for attempting to silence the ice cream brand on social media. In January, the company alleged that Unilever unilaterally barred from a post referencing abortion, climate change, and universal health care because it mentioned President Donald Trump. Founded by, not owned by anymore. Yeah, founded by. Yeah. And they've maintained the brand's mission of advocating for social justice throughout the years. All right. Great stuff overall. Also, there is more attacks against free speech and also control over Columbia University. Columbia University is getting close to yielding to President Trump's demands in negotiations to restore $400 million in federal funding. Columbia has until Thursday to agree to 9 far-reaching demands by the Trump administration. The demands include banning masks, empowering campus cops, and putting the school's Department of Middle East, South Asia, African Studies under academic receivership, which means it would no longer be controlled by the faculty. I talked about this yesterday. Megaphonics, I don't know where Libophonics is, but he had a really banger quote on this from Nazi Germany, which did the exact same shit. And the German dean at the time basically said, do we still get funding or what? after demanding that the all the Jews in faculty get deported, or not deported, but like fired. Megaphonics, where's that link you sent me? The one time I'm looking for Libophonics and he wakes up, but he's not ready to go. He's not ready to rip that. Anyway, more like Magaphonics. Here, I'll pull his. It's going to be impossible to find the actual quote because he posts non-stop. Look at this. This is only from like a couple days ago. How am I going to find it? Oh, this is it. Yeah. Peter Drucker, an Austrian economist, was then a lecturer at Frankfurt University. Fearful of Hitler's plans for Germany, he was prepared to leave the country, but hoped that it would not be necessary to do so. The first Nazi-led faculty meeting at the university convinced him otherwise. Frankfurt was the first university the Nazis tackled, precisely because of the most self-confidently liberal of major German universities, with a faculty that prided itself in its allegiance to scholarship, freedom of conscience, and democracy. The Nazis knew that the control of Frankfurt University would mean control of German academia. And so did everyone at the university. Above all, Frankfurt had a science faculty distinguished by both his scholarship and his liberal convictions, and outstanding among the Frankfurt scientists with a biochemist, physiologist of Nobel Prize caliber and impeccable liberal credentials. When the appointment of a Nazi commissar was announced, and every teacher and graduate assistant at the university was summoned to a faculty meeting to hear this new master, everybody knew of a trial of strength was at hand. I had never before attended a faculty meeting, but I did attend this one. The new Nazi commissar wasted no time on the amenities. He immediately announced that Jews would be forbidden to enter the university premises and would be dismissed without salary on March 15th. This was something that no one had thought possible despite the Nazis' loud anti-Semitism. Then he launched a tirade of abuse, filth, and four-letter words, such as had been heard rarely even in the barracks and never before in academia. He pointed his fingers at one department chairman after another and said, "You either do what I tell you or we'll put you in a concentration camp." There was silence when he finished. Everybody waited for the distinguished biochemist physiologist. The great liberal got up, cleared his throat, and said, "Very interesting, Mr. Commissar, and in some respects very illuminating. But one point I didn't get too clearly. Will there be more money for research in physiology?" 1-to-1. 1-to-fucking-1. The exception is it's not, Jews across the board. That's it. 1-to-1. For the record, this matches up with what my grandmother said happened in her life story as she left Nazi Germany with her partially Jewish family back then. She passed away about 10 years ago. Well, rest in peace to your grandma. At least she didn't get to see it twice in her lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't get to experience it. She did not get to experience it the second time around happening in the country that she escaped to. You say Jesus, but like, that's literally, you're living in it. What do you mean, Jesus? You're living in it right now. It's happening to you, dumbass, and to me, to all of us. Yeah, she didn't live long enough to watch her own son, my dad, become a Trump supporter, by the way. Yeah, there's, well, silver linings all around. That's dark as hell. Wake the fuck up. We are living in dark times, okay? This is, when I say I fear that America's darkest chapter is yet ahead, I mean it. Like, people will turn around and say like, "Oh, what do you mean? We had slavery. We had chattel slavery." That's pretty fucking brutal. I agree. It is, right? We had, this nation was built on indigenous genocide. Like, what are you talking about? I agree. I know all of that. And yet I'm still saying that we are moving towards the darkest period of the darkest chapter of American history. Okay? Because all of those things that happened, we will do again, but this time serialized, this time modernized, this time industrialized. The current administration has even more tools at its disposal to do a metric ton of evil. The parallels are there. It is very clear for those with eyes to see. All right? I don't know what else to tell you. We are moving in at an alarming rate towards just straightforward, open fashion. We're there. Like, this is the entry phase, okay? We've dipped our toes into it. We've dipped our legs into it, okay? We're almost at crotch level. Once the permission boundary is breached through the court system, as the Trump administration is actively undermining the court system when it's doing deportations to El Salvador, we will officially move on to the next stage. You have to fund ICE. You have to fund the military. You have to potentially create just cause to be able to utilize the military, right, to do the mass deportation protocols. Because right now, the only thing stopping the administration is the ticker tape of legality in the courts that will try to do temporary, they try to do injunctions and temporary restraining orders on the actions that they're taking. And then beyond that, it's just logistics, right? It's just logistics. Once they figure out the logistics of it, and they've also completely eviscerated the legal structure that could potentially stop it and make it legal to do this kind of thing, which is what they're actively trying to do, this will kick into high gear. Just wondering, what kind of 5-year-old were you to your parents? What? I don't know. I was 5. That's a very strange question. Society is a thin veneer that benefits those who do not play by the rules. Once it is broken, it cannot be replaced without force, no matter the morality. Anyway, we're here. News on the Mahmoud Khalil case. The judge rebuked the Trump admin. This case, the Mahmoud Khalil case, I think, is perhaps the most significant legal case of our time. What happens here will either completely erode the last legal bastion of defense that the institutions have in undermining the Trump agenda. If this court case sides and the Supreme Court sides eventually with the administration, it's over. They now have destroyed one plank. It's already basically like the little crispy Cheeto holding the door together. Okay, once they boulder through it, it's over. It's done. The legal side is cooked. It's over. The only way that the court system will work is at the behest of the administration. Everything that they do will be considered legal, of course. Obviously, they will enforce it through the pre-existing legal structure that will use the institutions to their advantage as long as, the institutions remain. And then the only thing stopping them will be logistics. It is incredibly difficult of an undertaking for this administration to go out and do mass door-knocking operations and fucking arrest everybody. Okay? Very, very, very difficult. My friends, oh yeah, this is basically, yes, the courts against the Trump admin. That's what this is. Now let's get back to foreign policy. Dude, I doubt this affects any citizens. No way Republicans go after free speech of citizens. We would revolt in the U.S. Come on, dude. Bro, this is so funny. Dude, I doubt this affects non-Jews. No way the Hitler, the Nazi party would go after non-Jews, dude. Are you stupid? All they care about is Jews. We'll revolt. It's a good joke. No, dude, they're just going after trade unionists. They're just going after communists. They're just going after socialists. They're just going after Jews in academia. They're not going to come after me. What? Just stop. They would never do that. Come on. Come on. It's so funny for people to think that I'm being hyperbolic when I'm directly telling you what is going on, explaining to you where it will go. And the government is like clearly following through on these promises. It's not like they sheltered you from their perspective. They did. They openly stated it. They openly stated their desires, their violent desires, and now they're following through on it. So I don't know why people are like, what? No, that's crazy.
Both sides continue.
Anyway, yeah. Foreign policy. Russia and Ukraine trade strikes after President Trump's call with Putin discussing a ceasefire.
Says that he made progress in the efforts to end the war in Ukraine. In a long phone call.
It's interesting that you used to encourage shadows not to go to doomer route, yet it seems lately that it's close to all I've heard from you. It's not. I'm not telling you to be a doomer. I'm telling you to be aware of what is to come. Okay? There is still mobilization that must. There's still an opportunity for mobilization. And that's why I urge people to go out and protest. That's why I urge people to resist. Having said that, be ready. I'm telling you what the future looks like. And it's not because I'm, telling you like it's over, it's done. Just, lay your arms down and show your belly like a coward. That's not what I'm saying at all. As a matter of fact, I'm urging the Democrats to also try and actively fight against this on a daily basis. Yeah, it's not doomer when the weatherman tells you it's raining or that it's going to rain tomorrow, you know, or tornado warnings for tomorrow.
Call yesterday with Vladimir Putin. The Russian leader did not agree to Trump's 30-day ceasefire proposal supported by Ukraine. Instead, Putin made his own proposal as both sides continue to bombard each other. Weijia Jiang is at the White House. Weijia, good morning.
Good morning, Nate. Good morning to everybody.
Immigration is the ultimate red herring. They'll constantly increase pressure on this issue that isn't an issue. They'll revoke birthright citizenship, but that will solve nothing. So what's next? Denaturalization. I promise you it's coming. Hasanabi Piker, October 30th, 2018. It's always really interesting when I got so many like liberal naysayers, and you will never hear a perspective like this from them ahead of time. As a matter of fact, all the role that they serve is to precisely defend the current cruelty that you are experiencing. Can you start predicting good shit? If good shit was happening, I would. What made you say that in 2018, if you recall? Stephen Miller. That's what made me say that. This is also part of the reason, for those of you who are always like, you know, for people that say like, I've changed. My attitude has changed on things. My perspective has changed on things. Like, no, it hasn't. You've changed. You probably started watching some dumbasses and decided that those dumbasses were able to convince you. He hasn't changed. His face got better. That's it. Yep. What is this? I'm a Columbia student in a MESAS grad class currently. I have no clue if this class will be cut by the admin or not, but it's likely. Numerous peers are about to be suspended for simply being around the third encampment, not even participating. Faculty can't even get off their ass to strike, and the entire university is about to be under Trump receivership. Yep. Wall Street Journal says Columbia is negotiating to call the receivership something more palatable and present it as a win. Yeah. No, it's just totally... Columbia is nearing the agreement to give Trump what he wants, according to Wall Street Journal. They're doing it. They're doing it. And they care more about like a aesthetic victory, so they will concede. They will yield, and then they will turn around and be like, but see, we got a lot of amenities out of this. Like, we were able to secure our funding.
The two leaders spoke.
A receivership is when an academic institution or specific studies at an academic institution are placed under control by a third party. In this circumstance, an independent third party that the government has designed. It is directly to change the curriculum. It's directly to change like what you get to teach at your school. It is a clear-cut violation. It is perhaps another glaringly obvious violation of the First Amendment. Anyway, let's get to the Russia-U.S. ceasefire talks.
Spoke for nearly 2 hours, and the call ended with Vladimir Putin agreeing to a partial ceasefire on energy and infrastructure. The White House views that as important progress, but as you mentioned this morning, both sides are launching fresh attacks.
I think we had a great call.
President Trump was optimistic about the developments following his call with Vladimir Putin, but just hours later, Russia launched an airstrike that sparked fires around Kyiv. It came as Putin agreed to pause all attacks on Ukraine's...
Most of my leftist friends think they win arguments on the border while they're caving on it. Yes, the border is an issue, but actually the Dems are the only ones who want to fix it. What are you saying? You gave up fighting the narrative? Yeah.
energy infrastructure and committed to further...
Also, your friends are not leftists if they say stuff like that. You have to have some conviction. You have to have a firmly held commitment to some fucking values. And I think protecting migrants, undocumented, documented alike, is that commitment.
Negotiations toward a broader ceasefire and an eventual peace deal. In a social media post, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Russia launched more than 40 drones against Ukraine yesterday, and that only a real cessation of strikes on civilian infrastructure by Russia as proof of its willingness to end this war can bring peace closer. Over the course of the night, Ukraine responded. Russia air defense systems intercepted 57 Ukrainian drones. Earlier, Trump gave this stark assessment of the situation in Ukraine.
Right now, you have a lot of guns pointing at each other, and a ceasefire without going a little bit further would have been tough. Russia has the advantage.
In the readout after his call with Putin, the Kremlin put conditions on any lasting peace, saying all foreign aid and intelligence sharing to Ukraine must stop. William Taylor served as former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine.
The Russians are saying in order for there to be a peace deal, all aid to Ukraine must come to a halt. Is that a realistic outcome here?
No, not at all. And the Ukrainians will never agree to compromise their security by saying.
Yeah. Russia says they agreed to halt energy infrastructure strikes. White House disagrees and says they said energy and infrastructure. So Moscow and Washington already disagree about what they agreed yesterday, but we knew that already because we read the readouts coming from Moscow and then we read the readouts coming from DC. And those two readouts were on entirely different playing fields. Now, under normal circumstances, yes, you write stuff that is more favorable to your side as your takeaway from this collaborative relationship as you look to arrive at a ceasefire. But in this circumstance, the dynamic is clear. Vladimir Putin made Donald Trump wait for an hour before he even did the call. He made him actively wait, publicly wait for an hour. And I think it's because Putin understands that Trump has internal pressure in the United States of America. Okay, what is this? This is another older tweet that aged well. The free speech conversation is not a serious one. It has legal limitations and vibe-based limits, like when someone openly claims they love Hitler. Nazis also don't believe in free speech. They just want to sucker people into allowing them a seat at the table until they get power. Well, they did, and they got power, and they're here, and they're using that power to literally fucking suppress speech. Art of the deal, more like art of the kneel. Yeah. Trump told Zelensky today that he should run the Ukrainian nuclear power plants. I suspect that is because if the United States owns it, in his mind, one, you can maybe get a pretty penny out of it by controlling Ukrainian energy in its entirety and making a lot of money off that. But then also simultaneously, Russia won't be able to bomb it because it's now an American nuclear facility. You know, that beautiful security assurance by selling your country to the United States of America.
Saying that they won't accept.
Sorry, Trump made Putin wait? No, Putin made Donald Trump wait for an hour before they talked. Not only did he make Trump wait for an hour before they talked, he was live, like he was on camera. He did this on camera.
Ammunition and weapons from the Europeans, from the Americans. They will not accept that.
Last night, President Trump said that the issue of aid never came up on his call with Putin. But this morning, the Kremlin is responding, insisting they did talk about it. And President Zelensky said this morning he plans to speak with Trump today to hear more about yesterday's call. Tony?
Weijia, thank you very much. A high-stakes 2-hour call today between President Trump and Vladimir Putin ended without a full agreement to implement a ceasefire, but the Russian leader did agree to a temporary halt to attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure as long as Kyiv agrees to do the same. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his country is going to support the pause as well, but later Zelensky said Russia had launched a barrage of drones toward Ukraine in an attack aimed at civilian infrastructure across the country and included a direct hit on a hospital, he said. Clarissa Ward reports from Kherson, where the streets are often empty and residents say they're targeted daily by drones in the sky.
On the streets of Kherson, anyone is fair game. Every day, swarms of Russian drones glide across the river on a deadly hunt that locals have dubbed a human safari. They target the old and the young, men and women. Flying low, they taunt and terrorize their prey. A man crosses himself, preparing for the worst, before the drone buzzes on. Others are not so fortunate. Russian social media is awash with these videos, complete with heavy metal soundtracks and gloating.
It's really interesting how closely this resembles Israel-style activity, by the way. Also, not lost on me that they never have done a piece like this about Israel, for the record. Damn, don't tell Israel about this tech. What are you talking about? Israel does this too. Hello? What do you mean? Yeah, it's you know who's doing it in Israel? Probably fucking Russians who are doing it in Israel too, okay? This isn't like smoke for Russians in general. I'm just saying there are a lot of fucking Russians in Israel. It's one of the same. Bullshit, RF are not targeting civilians? Come on, dude.
Comments. But to the people of Kherson,
maybe not to the
this is
same,
anything.
maybe not to the fucking same degree as the Israeli military is. Fair, you know, but the idea that they're not fucking targeting civilians is ridiculous. They absolutely are targeting civilians and also civilian infrastructure. This entire piece is about them doing just that. Also, that is an absurdly, insanely low bar. Like, imagine being like, well, they're not targeting civilians to the same degree as Israel is not a bar, okay? That's not... that's not, you can't, what? It's like saying Israel's not doing a genocide. They haven't set up concentration camps yet, you know? It's not the Holocaust, literally, so I guess it's not a genocide. That's what it sounds like.
But a game. So this is the central square.
How do I know if this actually happens? Have I been to Russia? Is a great question. Just like I have not been to Israel, just like I have not been to Poland in fucking the 30s, leading up to the 40s. I just don't know. I don't know at all. I can't confirm because I'm fucking Andrew Tate. That was the entire argument that I had with Andrew Tate was like, he was acting like you can't make inferences off of like established research. Like he knew the world was flat because he had seen it. He'd gotten on a spaceship and saw that the world was flat.
Square here in Kherson, and you can see it is eerily deserted. Just a few people out on the streets. It was raining and cloudy earlier, which means sometimes more people go out because that's not good weather for flying drones. But now, again, just a handful of people. All the
sorry, he
stores
knew it was round. He wasn't a flat earther. I apologize.
Basically boarded up.
I forgot.
The one supermarket open is heavily fortified. For Kherson residents, the simplest daily errand is the riskiest part of the day. Some can't even get to the supermarket. We drive to meet volunteers from the local administration.
So we're heading now to the eastern outskirts of the city. This is one of the most dangerous parts of the city, and they're getting ready to distribute some aid. They have to do it quickly and efficiently to ensure that they don't get seen by the drones.
The area is very exposed. We're told to hide our body armor under our coats.
Okay, so we've just arrived at this point. You can see they're starting to distribute the...
I just want you to understand something, by the way. She can't do this in Gaza because Israel won't let her. Israel is a foreign ally. Russia is a foreign adversary. She can do this in Ukraine. She can't do this in Gaza. If you want to understand the dynamic there, like, if you ask me, Clarissa Ward would love to go to fucking Gaza. She would. She has. She is literally secretly using, I think it was a Qatari envoy snuck into Gaza before. Think about that. Russia is a foreign adversary. Israel is our ally. And Western journalists were not allowed to go in during the fucking ceasefire this past month. Western journalists were not allowed to go in. There was only a couple Western journalists that were allowed, and they were only allowed in one specific area inside of where they were drop shipping humanitarian aid. That's it. And all of that footage was censored too by the military censors. Yeah, she snuck into Gaza once. I know. The first ceasefire, the 7-day ceasefire. I know. I'm talking about that. This is in Ukraine though, Kherson. I know. That's my point. My point is Russia has access. They can fucking laser her. You think they can't drone strike her right now? She is under threat. Yeah, keep watching CNN for accurate coverage. Okay, you got him, chatter. I mean, I do watch Fox News for accurate coverage as well. Don't worry. My point is, she cannot do this. She cannot do this within reach of Israel. She can still do this within the reach of Russia, but she cannot do this within the reach of Israel. This is not to defend Russia in any capacity. I think that much is clear. You know where I stand on this, but just understand it's to show you the depravity of our foreign ally.
Beleaguered residents emerge from their homes, where they live largely stranded. They grab supplies for neighbors who need help. They've lived through Russian occupation, then liberation, now this. Ina and her granddaughter tell me that life is so hard here. But there's no time to be afraid. She goes to collect her box of supplies.
So I told her that she's very strong, and she said everybody here is very strong. We have to be.
A man sets about repairing the roof of his home, undeterred by the near certain prospect of future attacks.
So they're saying that they have heard from the army that Russian drones have taken off from the other side of the river, so they're telling us to move on now.
We speed through the roads back to a safer part of the city. Nowhere in Kherson is really safe. The local hospital is surrounded by sandbag barriers.
He says they hit here quite a lot. That's why there's all these protections outside.
Across Kherson region, there were more than 2,000 drone launches just last week. The aftermath of that staggering statistic clearly seen here. Alena Shigareva says she and her friend were walking home from work when they were hunted. We were two women, all made up, without hats, carrying flowers and wearing white jackets, she tells us. They could see we were women, not soldiers. It's just horror. In another room, 19-year-old Boris is recovering from lung and leg injuries after the minibus he was traveling in was hit by a drone. 2 people were killed and 8 wounded.
Chad's like, bro, you don't understand. This is like, Russia doesn't strike civilian targets. Come on.
They are Russians. What can I say? He tells us. They're animals. Nothing else to say.
Pretty much every room in this entire ward has someone in it who has been injured or maimed by a drone. The doctor says they have 28 drone injuries that they are treating at the moment. This is just one of 3 hospitals that serve this city, and he said the number has just been going up and up since last August.
We steadily receive 90 to 100 patients injured in drone attacks a month, he says. And there were 20 attacks in 1 week on the hospital's generators. Russia has frequently targeted Ukraine's power infrastructure in this war. Rarely has it so flagrantly pursued civilians. We can call it a hunt for civilians, Mayor Roman Brochko explains. The Russians send fresh drone units to Kherson region, and they train by attacking ordinary people with drones. Then send these units to Donetsk and Lugansk. Then they send another new unit here to continue the human safari.
Ukraine is Hamas, according to Russia and Israel. I mean, that is, the arguments are the same. So yes, Russia behaves exactly like Israel. You're not wrong.
What can you really do to protect people here?
There's no panacea to fully cover the city because the Russians are developing their technologies, he says. There's no jammer that can fully close the sky.
Sources of Zionism not trustworthy? Yeah, I know, Clarissa. Sally, shut the fuck up. I know. I'm very familiar with Clarissa Ward's work, okay? I know what she did in Syria, and yes, I know what she did in Israel. She is a careerist, okay? She is a careerist. Sometimes she does really good journalism, okay? Like when she snuck into Gaza. Other times she does really bad journalism. It's not always at the behest of the State Department or its agenda. It's usually just because she wants to elevate her status as a war correspondent, okay? How do you believe this then? How do I believe this? I believe this because I also believed when she went into fucking Gaza. All war correspondents and foreign correspondents to a certain degree will toe the State Department line, but there's no reason to disbelieve the accurate reporting in terms of what is happening in fucking Ukraine. Why would you not believe that? Doors open. I personally can't believe a systematic liar. Okay, well then she lied about the conditions in the Gazan hospitals too, I guess. Hey, Fiona.
And so the people of Kherson suffer on. As outside powers bargain for an end to this war, nowhere are Russia's intentions felt so intimately. Clarissa Ward's.
How do I know that it's accurate? What do you mean? I have fucking eyes, dude. Like, I see the Telegram channels too. What are you talking about? Like, what are you disputing from her coverage here? That, like, what, Russia hasn't invaded Ukraine? Is that what you think is going on? Like, it's all just made up? I believe other sources more. Which source? Like, what? Explain to me what in this coverage, because sometimes she does real journalism, other times she does shoddy journalism. What are you disputing in her coverage here? Just say what you are disputing in her coverage. Other source RT. No, Russia Today or Al Jazeera. Wait, what? Al Jazeera. Okay. What are you talking about? Is Al Jazeera saying that, like, Russia is not invading Ukraine or something? Explain to me what you are disputing with her coverage here. Because Clarissa Ward is a self-interested careerist. Okay? She is. Which is why she sometimes does ridiculous coverage. And for the record, before people say, oh, Russia Today is a unique predicament because, like, they're so insane with and so wishy-washy that it's impossible to like tack them to a certain ideological framing on anything. But yes, Russian sources like TASS, like Russian sources are also valuable in understanding what the Russian propaganda looks like. I will never discount a source across the board and never look at it, because it's important to understand what the Russian side is thinking as well, or what they're actually saying as well in this process. Yeah, let's take a look at what Al Jazeera is saying. Russians in Kherson train on civilians. Deadly drones stalk South Ukraine. Oh, look at that. There you go, chatter. Here is a resource that you actually don't dispute. I dispute that Russia is targeting civilians. Okay, well, Al Jazeera also goes against what you're saying. Perhaps it's because it's happening. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Okay.
CNN, Kherson.
Well, CNN has reached out to Russian authorities for comment on Ukraine's. After more than 6.
All right, we're going to do the JFK. Okay. Oh, someone ran in here. Hello. Look, the mayor is here. Okay, go. Fiona, go. We can still look at Clarissa with a critical eye. I do. Of course I do. It could be a Ukrainian soldier dressed up like a civilian. Bro, it's so funny when people just want to be like, you're doing Israel propaganda for Russia. It's fucking ridiculous, dude. Come on. Yeah. Chatter was one step removed from being like, no, dude, you don't understand. The Ukrainians are using human shields. Ukrainians are using human shields. Oh my God. Yeah, Ukraine wood. They're doing Pali wood in Gaza, and they're doing Ukraini wood in Ukraine. Slavov wood. Telegenic babushkas. All right, we're going to talk about the JFK assassination files that are being released. A question I have on my mind is, if they're releasing the JFK assassination files, why have they not released the Epstein files?
60 years, we are finally getting access to some government files related to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. There are 80,000 of them, so we've got a whole team of CBS News people working their way through the documents. That includes Caitlin Huey Burns, who's going to join us now. Caitlin, good morning. What have you and the others found so far?
Hey, Tony, good morning. Well, President Trump told reporters ahead of this release that there would be a lot of reading to do, and boy, he was not wrong. I can personally...
You're joking, but a German friend of mine literally said that Ukrainians are hiding military equipment and soldiers in Ukraine weeks after the start of the war. Wow. Ukrainians are hiding soldiers in Ukraine? That's crazy. I can't believe that they have a standing military. Why do they have that? Did you see the parts on the Hungarian Revolution? I did. I mean, but this is like... Guys, no shit, the CIA actively played a role in mass instability against a foreign adversary like the USSR. Like, yeah, no shit. That still doesn't change the dynamic in general in terms of like overall discontent with the USSR. And also, it doesn't, make the Russian actions in that regard, in terms of suppressing any sort of movement against the USSR that was fairly violent, appropriate. Like, it's okay to recognize the wrongs of previous socialist formations. I certainly do. And the reason for why I recognize them, regardless of not being a anti-USSR kind of guy in general, is because it's important to learn from the mistakes of previous formations, so you don't repeat the same mistakes.
Attest to that. These documents total 80,000 pages. And as you mentioned, we had a whole team of reporters here at CBS going through them. And many of these files have already been released before. And if you're one of those who were looking for any proof of conspiracy, you will likely be disappointed.
More than 60 years after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the Trump administration released 80,000 pages of records to the public Tuesday night relating to his murder. Culling through the files is a tedious task. The scanned documents, many handwritten and going back over 60 years, can be at times difficult to read and decipher. Lee Harvey Oswald, the man who shot Kennedy in November of 1963, is mentioned 55 times in the documents, including in this 79-page summary of CIA surveillance operations that monitored Oswald's movements in Mexico City, where he visited the Russian and Cuban embassies ahead of the assassination. And
oh, the JFK files revealed once again the government position that it was actually Cuba. Hey guys, Lee Harvey Oswald, not a Navy officer, Navy intelligence officer. Okay, definitely not like actively engaging in disruptive as a member of intelligence. Certainly not engaging in following the CIA handbook field manual of like disrupting any sort of revolutionary action from taking place. It's actually real. He didn't visit those embassies as a Fed. He visited them as a sympathizer. Definitely a Cuban asset, not an American one.
in this letter written in 1978 from a man to the British ambassador in Washington. In it, he says he told...
I'm so glad that they revealed this, something that they've, said over and over again.
Immigration officials in London that in July of 1963, just 4 months before the assassination of a plan by Oswald to kill Kennedy.
It's possible, which is what makes this so scary. Wait, what? No.
But so far, the trove of mostly unredacted files show there is nothing that changes he was the sole assassin.
The documents, they don't show a conspiracy.
David Barrett, a professor of political science at Villanova University who studies the Kennedy presidency, says that while these files are not a smoking gun, they provide government transparency.
Maybe it will lessen the suspicion that the FBI or the CIA or some other government leader or agency were involved in a plot to kill Kennedy.
The Trump administration says the release represents a campaign promise kept, a promise he made the day Robert F. Kennedy Jr. endorsed him.
I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents on the Kennedy assassination, and we're going to do that.
And during a visit to the Kennedy Center on Monday, he announced they were ready to go.
So people have been waiting for decades for this. I don't believe we're going to redact anything.
Now, anyone can see these documents on the National Archives website, and more are going to be added once they are digitized, but others still remain under court seal. Now, you may remember the president's executive order also demanded the files from the assassinations of Robert F. Kennedy and of Martin Luther King Jr. to be released, but it's not yet clear when those will be published. Gail?
All right, Caitlin, got it. Thank you very much.
I've been in Spokane for 39 years.
I hate when this chat becomes the Alex Jones of the left moment. Something like this happens. What do you mean? My favorite fact about Lee Harvey is that he visited the USSR and Cuba with the intent of denouncing his American citizenship, only to be found too annoying by the USSR, and he tore up his passport for no reason. Yeah, and then with very little scrutiny from the American government, was allowed to fucking return and operate freely inside of U.S. boundaries. I find that very interesting, personally. I guess it's one of those. It is one of those conspiracies that I'm like not firmly on the government side on. Like I think that the established narrative is not the correct one. I don't think it is. Yeah, before we get to the Spokane, Washington, or Spokane, sorry, not Spokane, Washington. Before we get to the GOP lawmakers eating all the smoke from their own constituents, let's continue with the JFK stuff, because the original anti-imperialists who were smeared as so-called tankies were correct. The commander of the U.S.-backed insurgents in the violent 1956 counter-revolution attempt in socialist Hungary, General Bela Karali, was a CIA asset. This has been confirmed by the JFK records. So my attitude on this is the same attitude that I have. The same attitude that I have with discontent in general under Soviet rule. Okay, I don't think that the actions of the USSR were appropriate, regardless of the fact that the CIA certainly played a role in this. Now, the CIA playing a role in this doesn't also change the dynamic that there was also real discontent. No country is powerful enough to whip enough votes or to create this level of backlash. They can only exacerbate existing tensions. Okay? As far as the discontent, as far as the discontent goes, of course the CIA was helping the Hungarian counter-revolution. Like, it's just not, this is basic CIA shit. That's not surprising to me at all. What's more interesting for me is, like, what the USSR's attempt in squashing this protest looked like and why they were a failure in general. A copy of letter of the subject's file dated 22nd of November 1963, signed by the subject Secretary for Military Affairs, Executive Committee, Movimento Democratico Cristiano, is addressed to Major General Bela K. Kerali, President, Hungarian Freedom Fighters Federation, Inc., offered the services of the MDC in arranging meetings and discussions with other anti-Castro organizations and the Hungarian Freedom Fighters. The Hungarian Freedom Fighters was interested in information on the MDC before granting approval or contact between two organizations. Subject, a 32-year-old Cuban exile, was from a wealthy Cuban family, and in Cuba, he was a banker. He was granted a POA in December 1959 and an NOA in February 1960 for the use of FP agent in Havana, Cuba. A copy letter in subject's file dated 22nd of November 1963, signed by subject as Secretary of Military Affairs, is addressed to Major General Bela Kerali, President, Hungarian Freedom Fighters Federation, with other anti-Castro organizations. Bela Kerali dies at 97, led revolt in Hungary. JFK release appears to have genuinely unredacted material in it. Is a gigantic non-word searchable dump of PDFs, so it's slow going, but here's one example of previously released redacted document that I located and a new unredacted document. Oh yeah, the Hungarian Freedom Fighters were agency sponsored is the part that was unredacted. I don't think they would have inserted false material or whatever, but it remains to be seen if they have released / will release the really important stuff, e.g. the Angleton docs that Jefferson Morley has emphasized in his reporting. Holy cow, this guy found a sick one. James Angleton, Central Intelligence Agency official, is in charge of the Special Projects Unit located in the Foreign Intelligence Division of the CIA. During the past year, he has been very cooperative and has volunteered voluminous information of interest to the Bureau. At the present time, he more or less falls in the category of confidential informant. In order to handle his material in a more efficient and secure manner, it is being recommended that a control file be created. Section chiefs are also being alerted regarding the handling of information received from Angleton. In the previous ones, where is the redacted version, released June 2023, covers up Jay Lovestone bit, which is funnier because it's been known for like decades that Angleton was Jay Lovestone's handler. So Noah is like pouring through the data and looking at what was previously redacted and is now unredacted in this data dump. It is very much searchable text. Upload the Google Drive as Google Docs and download the document and upload the AI. Jefferson Morley says this morning at 8 a.m., I can't search these new JFK files. I hear you cry. Alas, the National Archives / Trump team failed to take the simple step of OCRing the released JFK files. But fear not, fellow researchers. The Mary Farrell Foundation is coming to your rescue. MFF will soon post searchable PDFs of all the new JFK files. In coming days, you can escape the clunky NARA site to go over to maryfarrell.org, the largest online archive of JFK records, to continue your research. Stay tuned for details. I know, like, this shit is bad, but I still read it and find it exciting. No, I don't think this is bad. I think it's not bad to understand how it's not bad to understand how the American government operates, especially the CIA. Like, I think the more informative stuff here is not to like arrive at a truth about who actually killed JFK. It's more so to get unrestricted, unfiltered access into how the CIA operated at the time and what they did. This is proof of a lot of the things that leftist tankies, whatever you want to fucking call it, will openly talk about in terms of like what the clandestine operations of the American State Department, the statecraft, looks like. This basically is just like proof of a lot of the things that they talk about, and they are the ones who oftentimes put the unredacted pieces of information together. Will this help me lose less on my polymarket bets that are longer than the list of American war crimes? Here's Jefferson Morley. He is formerly of the Washington Post, author of The Ghost, The Secret Life of CIA Spy Master James Jesus Angleton. Jefferson Morley is at least according to Noah, a trusted resource on JF-related information, so I trust him as well. While we continue, he says, while we continue to look through the new JFK documents, a couple of observations. First, this is a breakthrough. The absurd and suspicious redaction that have denied us the full story are, for the most part, removed. We know why JFK wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the winds. Because Arthur Schlesinger told him the CIA was effectively usurping presidential authority. The agency censored Schlesinger's case for 6 decades to obfuscate the reality of CIA power. Schlesinger warned JFK that CIA encroachment on the traditional functions of the state undermined his ability to conduct his own foreign policy independent of CIA. No, this isn't a smoking gun, but that doesn't mean it's historically irrelevant. Far from it. Schlesinger's memo lays bare the origins of JFK's mistrust of the CIA, which continued for the rest of his presidency. Kennedy's suspicions were matched by CIA alienation from JFK's liberal policies. This was one cause of the assassination. So the way I explain it is like everyone basically knew that this was the case, but this offers like direct proof, if that makes sense. A ton of Israel/Mossad mentions in the JFK files by Angleton. Yeah, of course. JFK files reveal CIA Israeli intel pipeline. But once again, a thing that we know, right? A thing that we know that is well established, that everybody fucking talks about, but now there's more proof for it. This is not shocking or surprising. This is more so just additional proof for a thing that everybody understood was the reality. Yeah, the only continued redaction from the JF documents has been look. James Angleton's CIA underpart emanated from a liaison agreement which CIA maintained with the Israeli intelligence service and from other sources under the control of Angleton. Much of the information developed by Angleton was not disseminated within the CIA, but he felt that the data should be passed on to the Bureau. Alan Dulles gave him authorization to handle dissemination in this matter. We continue to receive information of value on a regular basis. Maybe the most damning, the CIA put contaminating agent in Cuban sugar headed for the Soviet Union. Also under the heading of old business. There it is. I remember the hue cry, especially in Carl Kazin in the White House when, bleep, this was initially redacted. Here it is, unredacted. Also under the heading of old business, I will remember the hue and cry raised, especially by Carl Kazin in the White House when the agency injected a contaminating agent in Cuban sugar bound for the Soviet Union. Shortly after the Cuban Missile Crisis, there was a disposition in Washington to re-examine the Bay of Pigs, and the fact that several Alabama National Air Guard officers lost their lives in the Bay of Pigs was surfaced with surprisingly little excitement at the times. Can you explain why the CIA isn't what it used to be? Capitalism and shitification. It impacts all orifices and the organs of the state, as well as every other aspect of our lives. I genuinely think that. I think like the private-public partnership and the like funding being limited, I guess, even though they have expansive budgets, has definitely changed. Like they won. You know what I mean? They won. They won the Cold War. Capitalism won, socialism lost. And in the process, I think year over year, the deregulation, the deregulatory aspects, and the lack of interest in the lack of appropriate avenues and targets for the CIA made it so that it was no longer as necessary, as needed in the minds of those who control at least the funding structure. It's not because everyone is more aware and connected in the present day. I don't think so. I mean, look at fucking Israel, dude. Everyone is incredibly connected to the crimes of Israel, many crimes of Israel, and yet people seemingly turn the other cheek and look the other way and still fucking call me a terrorist, for example, for accurately explaining what Israel is doing. The CIA is a terrorist organization? Yeah, this video, isn't this the video?
This episode is brought to you by Nebula.
This is the video that got second thought a visit from the Department of Homeland Security, no? In some ways, people were more informed in the 50s and 80s because journalism existed in a meaningful way. Maybe. Yeah, videos age restricted and also got... Unsurprisingly, this entire page was previously redacted. Turns out the FBI and CIA jointly bugged a fucking ambassador's office, and CIA panicked and shut it down when Hoover planned to tell the Senate that it was a CIA operation before asking to start it up again later. More CIA domestic contact service activity. 1800 is quite a lot of businesses participating in the commercial cover program to backstop aliases from U.S. military and intelligence personnel. The U.S. didn't want to admit that it collected against friendly foreign countries and also concealed the existence of a program describing technical penetration of foreign diplomatic establishments, all the modern versions of which I'm assuming were blown by Snowden anyways. Intelligence coverage of friendly foreign countries, developing positive intelligence information regarding personnel. Anagram, penetration of foreign diplomatic establishments in the United States for procurement of cryptographic materials. So yeah, this is literally Edward Snowden shit. Remember when Edward Snowden blew the whistle on how much espionage the American intelligence agencies were engaging in for with our against our foreign allies? This is they've been doing this, and we now know about it not because of the revelations in the document in the JFK documents, but we know about it because Edward Snowden blew the whistle on it. Continue from the previous memo. This doc was initially notable for confirming the existence of ProHo, but in 2023, they still wanted to postpone releasing all the info about all technical collection programs against Soviets under a catch-all clause to protect national intelligence and defense interests. A 1973 memo from CIA's ORD, Office of Research and Development, that, as of 2023, withheld info about CIA and Bell, now known as AT&T, testing microwave technology to intercept domestic telecommunications. A lot of this stuff also is you know, it didn't go anywhere. That's the other thing. When you look at the conspiracy theories for too long, sometimes you end up falsely assuming that like MK Ultra was a massive success or whatever. You know what I mean? That like CIA's implementation of like hypnosis, for example, was successful. Like a lot of that stuff was not successful. Domestic tests for agency research and development efforts continued. This describes the CIA admitting to being able to basically covertly tap into most any U.S. telephone networks, landlines then, and also developing sensors and tech like FLIR, far-looking infrared, in the early 70s. This, I think, is part of the reason. I mean, from what I understand, the American infrastructure is still very fucking bad. Like telecommunications infrastructure is still very bad, that China was able to penetrate it with ease. There was a New York Times article on this a while back, like a couple months ago, where it turns out that the Chinese government and its espionage agencies had deeply penetrated American telecommunications and were directly looking at everything that people were saying. And the only reason why they were utilizing it was to figure out if their deep cover agents were under threat or not, so they can pull them out. Birds are real and they work for the government. Oh my God, someone show this to fucking, oh my God. Oh my God, hold on. Ain't nobody show this to Adapt. He's gonna lose his mind. Oh my God. Adapt was right. This was a previously redacted piece of information. Let's take a look. G. Trained birds. Birds have been trained and tested in the United States to carry small intelligence collecting packages such as audio surveillance devices, small cameras, and current measuring devices. Any data collected from unwitting domestic sources would have been used only for engineering purposes and then destroyed. Adapt! It's real. They have to redact this again. Yo, my apologies to Phase Adapt. Phase Up. He's been on this for a long time, dude. He's been talking about how birds have been used for espionage for quite a while now. And it turns out he was right. NSA participated and controlled most elements of the U.S. material. Oh, shocking. Redacted memo about intelligence coverage of diplomatic representatives of friendly foreign nations with a particular warning to U.S. officials working closely with French, British, Israeli, and German intelligence officers. So this entire memo was redacted. Let's take a look. Intelligence coverage of diplomatic representatives of friendly foreign nations. As you are aware, at the present time, our coverage on the intelligence efforts of foreign countries here in the United States is primarily aimed at the activities of Soviet and communist bloc countries. This has been brought about by the fact that those countries represent the greatest threat to the security of our nation, both in the international and domestic fields. Notwithstanding the foregoing, a number of instances have been brought to our attention reflecting so-called friendly nations are engaging in direct intelligence activities against the United States. The case involving Joseph Sidney Peterson, Jr., who was engaged in furnishing top-secret information from the National Security Agency to representatives of the Netherlands government, fully portrays the inherent danger in such intelligence activities. They were doing to us what only we get to do to them. See, now, this only goes in one direction. Only we get to spy on our foreign allies. our friendly foreign nations. Our friendly foreign nations don't get to spy on us unless you're Israel, in which case you get to do whatever the fuck you want, okay? Which is part of the reason why I always say, like, half the CIA loves Israel and actively collaborates with Israel. The other half of the CIA fucking despises Israel and wants to stop the cross-pollination. I think we all know which side won for quite a while now, actually. All right, it reaches another nation. Our security with respect to such information is only as good as the security of the foreign government. The purpose of this memorandum, therefore, is to alert you to the necessity of promptly bringing the Bureau's attention any information developed indicating representatives of foreign countries are engaged in intelligence activities here. Our basic policy is to conduct investigations only in instances where we receive allegations indicating an individual representing a foreign nation is engaging in activities in violation of our laws or otherwise constitutes a security menace. The Bureau is aware that the French, the British, the Israelis, the Germans, and a number of other nations either have regularly assigned intelligence representatives in the United States or, from time to time, send such representatives to the United States. In many instances, such representatives deal with the United States government agencies on an official basis. At the same time, it is possible that such representatives are engaged in other intelligence activities while here. We are requesting other government agencies who deal with intelligence representatives of foreign governments to keep us advised of the identities of foreign intelligence operatives in the United States. There it is. It apparently wasn't until 1955 that the FBI decided it should be spying on friendly nations. State Department had their own views on which country's staff should be targeted and surveilled first: Egypt, Syria, Saudi Arabia, and Israel, although it turned out Israel was already covered. Look, he stated that no coverage would be advisable at this time on such countries such as Greece, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, since the conditions in those countries are not, I guess, appropriate. In 1958, FBI was surveilling over a dozen Israeli nationals suspected of engaging in intelligence activities in Washington, D.C. and New York City, which was redacted previously. State Department told the FBI to proceed with caution when trying to develop informants within Israeli diplomatic establishments because most of the U.S. citizens hired by the Israelis are pro-Israeli in their thinking, i.e. watch out for double agents. Oh, no. The bottom said 9/11. Dude, what are you, fucking crazy? This is the JFK files. What are you talking about 9/11? If anything, they're talking about Chile, potentially. Not 9/11 2001. They didn't, the American intelligence community did not become the architects of 9/11 in like the fucking 50s. Yeah. There's two 9/11s that American intelligence was to a certain degree involved with, you know? More evidence of US CIA involvement in Sudan, Egypt, Syria, Yemen, and Libya. I know this is from 1959, but I'm honestly still pretty surprised it was released in its entirety. Ton of info about collecting against friendly nations. I guess the reason why they released the unredacted files is because most of the stuff is well established at this point, partially because as far as like the active collection of intelligence from foreign allies and not adversaries, but foreign allies specifically, was uncovered by Edward Snowden. So in that regard, they don't see any issue just openly releasing this stuff. I don't know. There's still information, I think, that you can derive out of this. This obviously specifically looks at like what the previously redacted, now unredacted files are. But as far as people claiming that this in and of itself is like irrelevant data, I disagree with you. I think that there's some worth in this information. Like, this is valuable information. It's important to now officially confirm previous assertions that were made through circumstantial evidence. This is now direct evidence. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much you can do as far as developing a theory about clandestine activities of the CIA. But when they do deliver unredacted information like this, it basically solidifies those theories. It turns them into facts. It just creates confirmation. I don't think it's a smoke screen. Anyway, from a historian's perspective, you can only assume this stuff, but now as a factual fact is great for correcting misconception in academic sense. Sure. As far as like figuring out who did it, who done it, I don't think we know. I don't think we will ever. I doubt that until like the American regime is toppled in its entirety, will you ever. And even then, there's probably a contingency to burn all of those fucking files regardless. So I doubt that we'll ever truly get this level of evidence on the who done it. This is an insane sequence of words that I did not understand could exist. Granny Hawktua was a CIA informant on the CPUSA, apparently. Jane Welsh. As the informant is aware, no connection between Lee Harvey Oswald and North Carolina branch of the Communist Party is known to exist. Actions before assassination consistent with previous behavior. Soviet connections recently sent memo denying any connection to Oswald to CPUSA governing committee. Opinion among membership divided on cause and justification of assassination. Party weapons appear to be accounted for with involvement neighboring vicinity of assassination. What? Withstanding neighboring vicinity of assassination? What does WI mean? Member Bleep, who previously served under Bleep, has been unaccounted for since February, although no reason to suspect involvement is currently known. The CIA or CPUSA party meetings at informant Falconry Ranch continue weekly as before assassination. No suspect. Subject is Jane Welsh, 23-year-old CPUSA Operations Board. I cannot believe that Hawktua's grandmother was a fucking CIA informant for the Communist Party of the USA. What the hell? So Hawktua is a psyop. Schizo's confirmed. Schizo's vindicated. Schizo's vindicated again. God damn. It's a joke, dude. Falconry Ranch equals Hawk. Yeah, I'm joking. I don't think this is real. But it's fun to entertain it. Hawktua girl's grandmother breaks silence and reveals one wish. Hawktua girl, whose real name is Haley Welsh, has posted a video on her Instagram account. The sweet montage set the small town talk shows clips of the meme star doing her makeup in bedroom and stroking horses' muzzles. Close relationship with Granny Jane, who Haley appears to be devoted to. Speaking publicly for the first time, Granny Janey revealed her response to the viral meme, as well as her one wish when it comes to her granddaughter. Granny Janey said, "I don't know how to feel. It's crazy. I never thought anything like this could happen. It's too much to comprehend." She hopes her granddaughter will still stay near her for the rest of her life, stating, "I just want her to stay with me as long as I'm here." Internet sensation Hawktua girl. How do we know this is like the same person? But this is so stupid. These people are so dumb. I mean, it's a meme. Granny Janey. Was she also Hawktuaing, spitting on that thing? Read the last line. What is the last line? She has been offered $600 to spit in a jar and send it over to... Man, y'all are dumb as fuck. This is a classic go back on the video moment. Like, you're so stupid, chat. Stop. God damn. Covering protests in Turkey today? I did already in the beginning. Go back in the VOD. Oh, here, let's look at why the CIA is a terrorist organization.
The CIA, from the very beginning, at least as early as 1951, has used the information that it has collected. And it has used the information in order to penetrate and to manipulate the institutions of power in whatever country it is operating in order to influence the course of events in those countries. And essentially this boils down to propping up those forces which are considered to be the friendly forces, and in penetrating, dividing, weakening, and ultimately destroying those forces which are considered to be the enemy forces.
Since its very inception as the Office of Strategic Services, the clandestine operations group known today as the Central Intelligence Agency has engaged in some of the worst atrocities in modern history. In this episode, we're going to take a brief look at some of the crimes of the CIA, and consider the possibility that maybe the good guys aren't so good after all.
The men and women of the Central Intelligence Agency. Without you, our nation's safety would be more vulnerable and our security fragile and endangered. The work you do each day is essential to the survival and to the spread of human freedom. You remain the eyes and ears of the free world. You are the tripwire over which the totalitarian rule must stumble in their quest for global domination.
As with every aspect of American life, the functions of the CIA are hailed as a way to protect freedom and democracy. Its agents are applauded as heroes. On the surface, the notion of gathering information to better understand the capabilities of other nations seems harmless enough. But, as you probably already know, the CIA is not simply the ears of the nation. They're also instigators, propagandists, spies, saboteurs, torturers, and, all too often, murderers. This is a huge topic, and one that I can't possibly fit into a short video, so I'll leave a bunch of links to other resources in the description. We're going to focus on some of the big picture stuff. Let's start with election meddling. According to US politicians, there's nothing more sacred than free and fair elections. We accuse other nations of meddling all the time. Recently, it's been Russia.
Unless the election results are one that we do not like. in which case we absolutely will do everything in our fucking power.
Iran and China getting the accusatory finger pointed at them. But as much as we want to project an image of our nation as a shining beacon of truth and freedom, we are the worst offender when it comes to meddling in foreign affairs. And it's not even close. The CIA isn't a fan of subtle manipulation. The intelligence agency wants the world to see the results of whatever election or administration they're disrupting. What they don't want is for people to know they're the ones pulling the strings. According to one study, the CIA had engaged in 81 overt or covert interventions in foreign affairs between 1945 and 2000. And that's just the ones we know about, and not even counting the constant meddling and destabilization of the last 20 years. The CIA's weapon of choice for foreign meddling is the military coup. One of the earlier examples is the overthrow of the democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran. Based on what you know about US priorities and the resources of the Middle East, what do you think was the catalyst for this coup? If you said oil...
Is this voice AI? Yes, dude, everything is AI. The artwork is AI. The voice is AI. I'm AI. You might also be AI. There's nothing real anymore. Everything is AI. I feel like Zoomers' brains are so fucking broken, dude. Oh my God. Every fucking video that we watch is like, is this AI? Is this AI? It's not! Jesus Christ.
Congratulations, you're right. The US beating up other countries for their oil isn't just a meme. Masada had nationalized the Iranian oil company, which negatively affected US and British economic interests. To make matters worse, from a US perspective, Masada, while not a communist himself, had earned the support of the Iranian Communist Party. As you'll come to see, one whiff of successful non-capitalist economics and the CIA is called in to destroy everything. In this particular instance, Winston Churchill and President Eisenhower decided to overthrow the government of Iran. The CIA paid some of Tehran's most violent mobsters to stage protests across the city, and orchestrated trucks and buses full of people to come in and seize the area. Between 200 and 300 people were killed in the conflict, which of course the CIA expected would happen. The intelligence agency then propped up a government under the rule of the Shah, who reigned as a monarch heavily dependent on US support to maintain power. Masada was arrested, convicted of treason by the new US-friendly government, served 3 years in prison, and spent the remainder of his life under house arrest, all for the crime of trying to lead his country out from under the boot of Western imperialism. The truth about this coup wouldn't come to light until 60 years later, in 2013, when CIA documents on the subject were declassified. These documents prove the CIA's planning and execution of the coup, their use of propaganda, bribery of politicians, security and military officials, and their approval at the highest levels of government. You may be thinking, okay, if they declassified this information, that means they don't do that kind of thing anymore, right? Well, no.
Have we ever tried to meddle in other countries' elections?
Oh, probably. But it was for the good of the system in order to avoid the communists from taking over. For example, in Europe in 47, 48, 49, the Greeks and the Italians, we
don't do that now, though? We don't mess around other people's elections, Jim?
Only for a very good cause.
Can you do that? Do a Vine video on a former CIA director.
Only for a very good cause in the interests of democracy.
All right, thanks.
Laura Ingraham clearly gave this guy the chance to lie and say that we don't meddle anymore, but he didn't take it. The CIA director openly bragged about meddling in foreign affairs for, quote, very good reasons. Call me idealistic, but I don't think there's any reason for a country to disrupt the election process of other nations. But here we are. It's out in the open that we do it to this day. Here's another example of a CIA operative bragging about the types of crimes the agency commits.
We need to make the Iranians pay a price in Syria. We need to make the Russians pay a price. The other thing I would do...
We make them pay the price by killing Russians?
Yes.
And killing Iranians?
Yes, covertly. So you don't tell the world about it, right? You don't stand up at the Pentagon and say, we did this, right? But you make sure they know it in Moscow and Tehran. Here's the other thing I want to do. I want to go after those things that Assad sees as his personal power base, right? I want to scare Assad. So I want to go after his presidential guard. I want to bomb his offices in the middle of the night.
Well, that happened about 2 years ago, as you remember, when his brother-in-law was...
I want to destroy his presidential aircraft on the ground. I want to destroy his presidential helicopters. I want to make him think we're coming after him, right?
These people aren't exactly subtle about the sabotage and violence committed by their organization. But let's return to the past for a minute. There are plenty more coups to discuss. Another study found that the US was responsible for no fewer than 61 attempts at regime change during the Cold War alone, all spearheaded by the CIA. Just 1 year after the overthrow of Mossad, the CIA launched another coup to oust Jacobo Arbenz, the democratically elected president of Guatemala. This is the moment the CIA established itself as a weapon to be wielded by Western capital. The agency was approached by the United Fruit Company, a US-based corporation, because they were afraid new anti-exploitation laws in Guatemala would negatively affect their profits. The CIA also suspected Guatemala had ties to the USSR. And these two reasons were sufficient for them to launch a coup, oust the Guatemalan president, and install the first in a long line of right-wing dictators friendly to the US. This coup also set the precedent of the CIA lying to the president regarding casualties. So, by 1954, we had a largely unaccountable secret agency undermining democracy and national sovereignty around the world. This trend would continue throughout the decades. In 1963, the CIA planned a coup that culminated in the assassination of the president of South Vietnam, once again in the name of fighting communism. This particular coup resulted in US involvement in a foolish 10-year war, which cost the lives of 58,000 American soldiers and almost 1 million Vietnamese, many of whom were civilians. The CIA would go on to launch coups in Iraq, Cuba, the Republic of Congo, Laos, the Dominican Republic, Brazil, Chile, and countless other countries, each time with little reasoning besides, what you're doing isn't ideal for the US. These coups often led to horrible destabilization, including civil war, economic depressions, and hundreds of thousands of deaths. Over the course of their reign of terror, the CIA would develop techniques to aid them in the destruction of foreign nations. One such batch of techniques was compiled in a 90-page handbook titled Psychological Operations in Guerrilla Warfare, which was distributed to the US-backed Nicaraguan Contras, and detailed how armed propaganda teams could build political support in Nicaragua for the Contra cause through deceit, intimidation, violence, and assassination. This was a trend that would prove very useful to the US. By outsourcing their more heinous crimes, including over 50 assassination attempts on world leaders, to local US...
Yeah, how can I say America's bad when we've liberated so many people from communist dictatorship, dude? By actively liberating them from their lives. This is... I guess America's always outsourced the brutality when you think about it. And now we're just going to have concentration camps on the Mexican side of the southern border. Fantastic.
Friendly groups, the CIA could maintain a level of plausible deniability. Here's former CIA officer John Stockwell discussing his time in the agency and what their goals were.
They undertake to run operations in every corner of the globe. They also undertook the license of operating just totally above and beyond U.S. laws. They had a license, if you will, to kill, but also they took that to a license to smuggle drugs, a license to do all kinds of things to other people in other societies in violation of international law, our law, and every principle of nations working together for a healthier and more peaceful world. We manipulated and organized the overthrow of functioning constitutional democracies in other countries. We organized secret armies and directed them to fight in just about every continent in the world. We encouraged ethnic minorities to rise up and fight. People like the Mosquito Indians in Nicaragua, the Kurds in the Middle East, the Monks in Southeast Asia. We have organized, and we still do, and fund death squads in countries around the world, like the Treasury Police in El Salvador, which are responsible for most of the killing of the 50,000 people just in the 80s, and there was 70,000 before that. And orchestration, CIA, secret teams, and propaganda led us directly into the Korean War. We were attacking China from the islands Quemoy, Matsu, Thailand, Tibet. A lot of drug trafficking involved in this, by the way, until eventually we convinced ourselves to fight the Chinese in Korea. And we had the Korean War, and 1 million people were killed. Same thing for the Vietnam War, and we have extensive documentation of how the CIA was involved at every level, or the national security complex, because it's a very cooperative thing, into manipulating the nation into the Vietnam War. Let me just put it this way. The best heads that I coordinate with studying this thing, we count at least, minimum figure, 6 million people who've been killed in this long 40-year war that we've waged against the people of the Third World.
But funding coups and destabilizing entire regions takes a lot of money. Luckily for the CIA, their scope of work was broad enough to include a particularly lucrative industry, drug smuggling. At least as far back as the Vietnam War, CIA operatives were heavily involved in trafficking drugs into the United States. CIA planes would make routine trips to and from places like Costa Rica and Honduras, working with cartels to secure massive amounts of heroin and cocaine, which they would then shuttle back to the US and sell for a healthy profit. Because of their secretive line of work, these planes could land in places where normal customs regulations don't apply. It's a dream scenario for drug smuggling. The piles of money the CIA makes from this practice have directly funded the undermining of democracy throughout the world, with the added effect of introducing harmful drugs to the American population.
I mean, we would never do that now, right? Like, obviously, we would never like invade a foreign nation and seize control over its poppy fields and keep it going. We would never do that. Accelerate opium production that suspiciously never made its way to America, only the European market. Enough.
Population. Drug running and coups are bad enough, but what really makes the CIA a terrorist organization is their fondness for bizarre, questionable, and sometimes downright evil experiments. Since the end of World War II, the intelligence agency has experimented with everything from chemical weapons to biological.
Yes, I'm talking about Afghanistan, but Afghan poppy never made its way. What the fuck is happening? This dog is panting like crazy. You okay? You got a big walk in, huh?
Biological weapons to mind control and death rays. The CIA is on a never-ending quest to find new ways to secretly kill or otherwise control their targets. You may have seen the movie The Manchurian.
Only 95% of European heroin comes from Afghanistan. Shit, my bad. I'm sorry. I apologize. My mistake.
Candidate. The film was based on the CIA's experimental mind control program, where a subject would be hypnotized and programmed with an activation word or phrase, something that, when heard, would trigger their CIA training and turn them into a sort of deadly automaton. The CIA wanted to create these sleeper agents and plant them in target countries around the world. It sounds absurd, but the Cold War was a scary time, and the CIA...
Yeah, you're right. Heroin in America has been Chinese, China white for years, brown shit from Mexico, but all the Afghan shit gets pushed elsewhere. Yeah.
CIA was a scary place. The secretive agency may have left the notion of mind control behind, but what they haven't given up is torture. Torture is something that no human being should be capable of doing to another, but it's part of the standard CIA toolkit, and it has been for years. This really only came to the attention of the American people during the Iraq War, when the horrific images from secret prisons and black sites like Abu Ghraib found their way onto US television screens. Waterboarding, sensory and sleep deprivation, dogs, insects, electrical shock. All of these and even more twisted techniques were used to get supposed criminals to confess, or get war prisoners to give up valuable information. For years, the gruesome details of America's so-called enhanced interrogation program were hidden from the public. Bits of information trickled out slowly over the course of the Iraq War and the years following. Now, nearly 2 decades after the CIA fabricated the intelligence that led us into war with Iraq, a fuller picture of the horrors of CIA black sites has been assembled. One prisoner, 49-year-old Abu Zubaydah, the first person to be subjected to the torture program approved by President George W. Bush, has provided drawings of what he experienced at a CIA black site in Thailand. Zubaydah, who was captured because the CIA mistakenly thought he was a top al-Qaeda lieutenant, describes waterboarding, which he endured 83 times, being crammed into a tiny confinement box meant to break his resolve, chained in so-called stress positions for hours. For example, his wrists being chained so high that he had to stand on tiptoes. He also depicts being hooded, chained in the fetal position, and tethered to a cell bar to prevent movement. He describes a process known as walling.
That's not true. The Taliban ended heroin within 6 months of taking over. Yeah, no, I know. I'm saying when America was in charge. I'm talking about, I'm saying that I was being sarcastic when I said America would surely never take over the heroin trade to continue funding their operations.
In which the prisoner has his head banged into a wall, and when he falls down, he's dragged back up to his feet by a plastic wrap.
Also, this is identical. Israel uses these torture methods as well in their prisons, their military detention facilities, where they put Palestinians on permanent detention without any evidence whatsoever.
Towel around his neck. Another drawing shows a larger confinement box, pitch black, with the prisoner chained in a seated position over a bucket which was meant to serve as a toilet. Zubaydah also describes being deprived of sleep for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, kept awake by having water thrown on him and being chained in painful positions. This is the legacy of the CIA during the Iraq War and for years after. Cruel, inhumane torture, approved by the very highest authority in the country after the CIA fabricated the reasons for invading Iraq in the first place. Today, the CIA claims they no longer torture human beings. Instead, they're known to train non-Americans to do it for them, to maintain their plausible deniability. The CIA trains, observes, and provides equipment to foreign agents who are less constrained by public outcry. The torture continues, but now the CIA can claim that they're not the ones doing it. The question you're probably thinking is, why? Why would our country allow this organization?
This is part of it. Like, this is what I was saying. It's like outsourcing. We outsource everything. We've always outsourced shit, but like, I think part of the reason why CIA doesn't have the same motion it once did was because, like, when you outsource everything, you don't have the same level of control over all of your facilities, all of your capabilities. We've the definite like for-profit attitude has unironically eroded the CIA's capabilities now as well.
To exist. It clearly doesn't protect freedom and democracy like Reagan claimed. The answer is simple. The U.S. wants to maintain its #1 spot.
Only 57% of Americans think it should be legal to protest Israel. Wait, what? What are you talking about? 12% say it should be illegal. This is the most like this is the biggest like non-issue of all time. Yeah. 57% say it should be legal. 31% are weirdly unsure. 12%, oh, my goat Vincent Oceana. Newsflash, it is legal to protest. Move along, people. Yes, 30% of Americans are stupid. 12% of Americans that respond to this poll are fucking psychopaths. And 31% are stupid. Who cares? These numbers are not as bad as you think they are. Trust me. I know the depravity of the American population. Okay? I'm shocked.
We're currently the sole world superpower. And in order to maintain that position of power, the country needs to make sure that the rest of the world depends on us. And it needs to make an example of alternative economic structures that would undermine the notion of American capitalist supremacy. But don't just take it from me. Here's former CIA operative and whistleblower Philip A.G. talking about the U.S. relationship with Cuba and why we were so adamant in destroying them.
So it's not hopeless, but you see how the United States is going around in these areas of economics and of trade and of commerce and finance to try to make the Cuban people suffer as much as they can. And this is affecting, in a drastic way, very young children and infants, and also the older, in other words, the most vulnerable. And it is an eternal shame on the United States, in my opinion, that we would do such a thing to an entire country, just because we don't like the system, just because they won't come under our protection, basically. It's a kind of a mafia attitude, and it has been that way since Eisenhower.
Well, that's capitalism.
Well, it's also the United States, and our tradition of being very nervous when we don't control something. And when a country like Cuba slips out from under our control, after we had ruled it practically as a neo-colony or a protectorate for 59 years or so, then it makes people nervous because they know that if the Cubans are successful in their example of being able to provide, as a poor country, the best medical care in the third world to the whole population, because it's an inclusionary system. It's not like we have here, where you have this huge bulk of the population, marginalized. But there, if everybody can have adequate medical care, if the schooling is adequate for all, and remember, Cuba has more doctors and more teachers per capita than any country in the world, and they have succeeded in these areas, and it's all state supported, which means people don't have to put money out for the medical care or for they of course pay the cost indirectly as a whole society, but they don't have to pay the bill in the hospital and so forth. And so that cannot be allowed to stand. It's a very bad example for the United States. So there's a very large mass of people out there who can look at Cuba and say, well, if they can do it, and on a per capita income of $2,000, $2,500 a year, where ours is $22,500 a year, what's wrong with our system? I mean, maybe we ought to consider an alternative.
That's why Nicaragua, Sandinista Nicaragua, had to be destroyed.
Exactly. They were a bad example, and that's why Grenada had to be destroyed, because any movement that comes to power with the idea of providing for all the people and of escaping the control of the United States and its economy, let's say the corporations and so forth, then that is bad news here in the United States in the upper circles of power.
So there you go. It really is that simple. The U.S. wants to maintain its global supremacy, and that requires destroying any competing economic system to prevent people from questioning capitalism. And I
can't think of a current nation that at least bills itself as a transitional socialist state that the American government is actively looking to attack relentlessly, and is positioned as as the number one foreign adversary. I can't think of a single one. Certainly all of the things that we say about our foreign adversaries, especially one that would bill itself as a transitional socialist state, would probably be true and valid, and you must hate them and you must fear them, and you must justify any and every action that we take against them.
Requires keeping the rest of the world under the boot of the
Yeah, I'm talking about Canada. That's what I'm talking about. I was actually referencing the socialist transitional state of Canada.
United States. It's criminal and morally reprehensible, but who's going to stand up to the most powerful bully in the world? For those of you thinking that this doesn't matter because you live in the US, I've got bad news for you. In 1975, a U.S. intelligence committee found that the CIA owned more than 200 wire services, newspapers, magazines, and book publishers, and subsidized many more. A separate New York Times investigation revealed an additional 50 media operations run by the CIA, both within the U.S. and abroad, and another 12 publishing houses which had produced over 1,200 books secretly commissioned by the CIA. Okay, what does this mean? It means that the CIA has been running a secret propaganda campaign on American citizens for almost half a century. More recently, the agency has awarded contracts worth billions of dollars to Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, Amazon, and Google to complete assignments issued by the CIA. The Central Intelligence Agency has its tendrils in every single aspect of modern life: books, magazines, movies, television, social media, and big tech. Just as the CIA works hard to undermine freedom and
Johnny Harris
democracy around the world, it also works hard to keep Americans convinced that they live in the greatest country on earth, and that there is...
I think after almost a century of successful Red Scare propaganda and the complete elimination of the USSR, I would say like these last couple of decades, I don't even think the CIA has to do this. I think they try to, and they do it in a very stupid way. I think Mossad tries to do it as well. Like when they'll do stuff like, what did those watermelon people ever do for black people during BLM? Like whenever I see someone talk about pro-Palestinian support as watermelon people, I'm like, okay, that's got to be an agent, you know? That's a federal agent that's writing that from behind an anonymous account. Like they do stuff like that, but it's kind of silly, and I don't think it works that much. But I mean, I'll give you an example, right? I'll give you an example from the Philippines. China offers Sinovacs to the Philippines in an effort to do some soft power. America needs the Philippines to despise China because America uses the Philippines to ensure that China does not get to stabilize the South China Sea. The Filipino government is the last government that refuses to engage in mutual security cooperations with China. That's why you hear stories about like Filipino boats getting hit with water cannons from like the Chinese Coast Guard, right? That is happening while China is trying to create a security cooperation agreement that it successfully implemented or successfully got on board with every other country in the South China Sea, with the exception of the Philippines. So China, in an effort to do soft power initiatives and show goodwill, offers Sinovacs to the Philippines. What does the American government do? They engage in a covert bot attack, basically, on Filipino social media to try and create fear amongst the population against Chinese vaccines. They run an anti-vax campaign. This was all revealed in a Reuters article that we've shown on numerous occasions. Okay, so they created vaccine hesitancy. They created vaccine hesitancy in the Philippines in an effort to stop them from using and mistrusting the Chinese vaccine that was sent. Instead of sending Western vaccines to the Philippines, that's what they chose to do. And this was fairly consequential. So it's not that the American government doesn't engage in initiatives like this, right? They still do. They still engage in initiatives like this one. Here it is. This is the Reuters article. Pentagon ran a secret anti-vax campaign to undermine China during the pandemic. if you want to learn more about it. I've read this article multiple times at this point, so I'm not going to do it again. But they used to, and they still do it. But I don't think it's, I don't think every single person that you see on your timeline that's saying like insanely stupid things is actively being paid by the federal government. I think that there are a lot of people that simply want to sound smart, and they are carrying the tradition of wrecker behavior all on their own, without any sort of federal government subsidy, without any sort of paycheck or pay stub from the FBI or the CIA. They're just doing it on their own because they're fucking stupid. Part of the reason why they're doing it on their own because they're fucking stupid is because American education is completely collapsed. There's no critical thinking skills, and social conditioning is so firmly set and so firmly anti-communist, anti-socialist in this country that they don't even need to do it. Like, they can just get it for free.
There's no alternative to American supremacy. The CIA is a terrorist organization, the biggest one in the world, and it needs to be abolished and its records made public. The United States has no right to impose its will on the rest of the world, and it certainly has no right to do it in secret.
Anyway, I tell people that Americans have been lobotomized. Yeah. Every American at birth, myself included, gets immediate government-mandated lobotomy. Otherwise, it makes no sense that these would be the outcomes. Yeah, that video that we just watched got a Department of Homeland Security visit for JT. Second Thought. That's a Second Thought video. And JT literally got a Department of Homeland Security visit after that video. It's also been completely blacklisted on YouTube despite having 700,000 views. Not true. Wait, wasn't it that video that got him the visit? Was it another video? I'm pretty sure it was a different video. I thought it was that one. Which one was it? I need to find the tweet. Go find the tweet and then send it to me. CIA fell off as a self-perpetuating machine now. I think there's some truth to the American psychosis being self-perpetuating, but these ideas aren't just occurring spontaneously. They absolutely still have an insane amount of influence in the rhetoric and propaganda that floats around, even in a lot of progressive spaces. I think that they do have influence, but it's like the same principle behind manufacturing consent. Yeah, it is. I was right. It's the CIA video, no? Yeah. This is going to be an important thread. This thread was prompted by YouTube shadow ban of my new video. Yesterday morning I released, the video titled CIA is a terrorist organization. Unsurprisingly, it was instantly demonetized. Fine, I'm used to that. After the video went live, I got the usual comments. Clicked as soon as I saw the notification. Views were slightly disappointing, but par for the course for a demonetized video. The video no longer appeared in the subscription feed. Wait, what? This was an obvious lie. And an insulting one at that. Remember, that video was only age-gated. Why wouldn't my video on the CIA, which did not show any explicit violence, receive a harsher treatment? YouTube is notorious. The fact that the video went live received notifications. No, the CIA is a terrorist organization. Am I wrong? Look at the tweet right above. That video earned me a visit from the DHS, who asked me about anti-American sentiment in my videos. A few months ago, I uploaded. Oh, you're right. Okay, my bad. My bad. You're right. I uploaded a video on police brutality that showed explicit acts of violence by the police, and it was understandably age-gated. The video was appropriate only for older audiences, but did not break any of YouTube's terms and conditions. That video earned me a visit from the Department of Homeland Security, who asked me about anti-American sentiment in my videos. That was the first time I realized, wow, I guess people really are monitoring what we say and are willing to try and intimidate us. Shit, my bad. It was not the CIA terrorist video. It was a police brutality video that he put out. Thank you for clearing the record. By the way, you should read this. Is going off the same intelligence agency thread of thoughts also important? No. Have you gotten visits from the Department of Homeland Security before? Do you think I would reveal this information? Are you insane? I will not confirm nor deny anything. All right. This is huge. Priscilla Johnson McMillan interviewed Lee Harvey Oswald in the Soviet Union in 1959. She played a key role in shaping public perceptions of Lee Harvey Oswald as mentally unstable lone wolf communist after JFK's assassination, but her role in the cover-up went a lot deeper. In September 1964, the Warren Commission was desperately trying to square the circle on Lee Harvey Oswald being in two places at once, Mexico City and Cuban exile, Sylvia Odio's home in Dallas, Texas. The Mexico trip in and of itself is deeply suspect. Warren Commissioner Senator Richard Russell disbelieved the single bullet bullshit and that Lee Harvey Oswald had gone to Mexico. So Priscilla miraculously found a bus ticket stub showing Lee traveled there while interviewing his wife Marina at home. More here. Then in 1967, Stalin's daughter defected to the U.S. with CIA help. Upon arrival, She stayed in Priscilla's grandfather's home while Priscilla helped her write an autobiography. JFK researchers have suspected she was CIA for decades. That has now been confirmed. Appears to be a new file on CIA's witting collaborator and Marina Oswald friend and biographer, Priscilla Johnson McMillan. Looks like she was very active going back to 1958. What? Why would you not have been visited? I mean, come on. You had a teenage leader of the terrorist Houthis on your stream who took out 100. Why would you not have been visited? I mean, come on. You had the teenage leader of the terrorist Houthis on stream who took out 100 U.S. ships and mass murdered Jews. I know you're joking, except there are people who legitimately think this. I understood that you were joking, except there are people who literally think that. There are people who actually think this. Yeah. Also, you know, the funny thing about the Houthis is that it's a family. Like the Ansar Allah movement is primarily led by the Houthis, who you can tell if they're Houthi or not because it's their fucking last name. So that's why it's very funny when people are like, dude, you just don't know. This guy's a fucking Houthi. Yeah. If his name would literally be Al-Houthi if he was a fucking Houthi. Anyway, that's besides the point. It's very stupid. It's very annoying, but who cares? I can't believe you're laughing at someone that personally murdered 5,000 U.S. troops. No, how about 5 million, dude? 5,000. He killed 5 million U.S. troops. He has a devil fruit, big dog. What do you mean? Words used to mean something. Power scaling used to mean something. And now you got Tim Houthi, Charlemagne, so OP that he's wreaking havoc over the Red Sea with his devil fruit powers, and no one cares. No one cares about it. Yeah, the leader is Abdul. Yeah, you know how all the people that have D's in their middle names, like it's kind of like that. All the people that are Houthis have Houthi in their last name. Yeah, he got the hockey and the devil fruit. Abi coverladın mı İmamoğlu'nu? Yes, coverladım. Sabah. İlk iş. This appears to be the nose of a HSCA staffer who was reviewing CIA documents on PGM. It would be nice if we actually had access to those original files. Actually, this file was previously released with a few redactions, such as the case officer's name and various sources and operations name. Where were we? Yeah, we dove into the JFK stuff. I don't know if there's like a good YouTube video. I guess like one of the best AFK coverage, like one of the best like conspiratorial AFK videos you can watch is what's face Oliver Stone. It's not a documentary, but it's a fucking, the JFK movie is pretty good. There's also he covers it in his what is it, People's History? Wasn't that the other one? People's History, like the revamping of the Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States as a documentary, like a docu-series. Wendy does a really good ass theory vid. I proved the JFK conspiracy with a whiteboard. Nah.
On Friday, November 22nd.
What is this? 2 years ago from Sean Munger. Oswald acted alone. JFK assassination solved. Part 1 of 2. The Sean Munger video confirms the previously established government narrative. Then that's not what I was looking for. What I was looking for is something different. There's a video that goes into the Foster Dulles angle that I found compelling. GDF has a video on it. What is his video? What is his video on it? Is it the Why America Really Supports Israel? Because I'm gonna be a little suspicious on that. I have seen some stuff from GDF that has like rubbed me a little bit in the wrong way, and I used to be a big fan, as you guys know. What I don't understand is that you call Jackson a Fed and make up conspiracies about him. All I'm saying is, first of all, much respect to the Jackson Hinkle heads. Okay, that's number one. Big respect, big ups. You guys are the true loyalists. You are definitely. I respect it. I respect the Jackson Hinkle heads, especially at this stage, you know? All I'm saying is, I find it rather odd that he is a MAGA communist linked up with Tulsi Gabbard, who literally did PSYOPs, also is a Fed, and he can freely travel to fucking Russian-occupied Ukrainian territory, Venezuela, and the fucking Hassan Nasrallah funeral. freely, establishing communications with all matter of anti-American influencers and people that are declared foreign adversaries, even sometimes on like the terror watch list, and freely roam in the United States of America. Deport his ass? No. I'm not. I'm not advocating for that at all. I'm simply stating that I find it interesting that he does not.
In 1956, he
does not get. What is this? This is an unlisted link. This video that you sent me is unlisted. Eyes Wide Open. Oh, I've heard about this. This is a channel I've heard about with 138,000 subscribers. Bush the Father Chapter 1. God damn, this channel is popping, dude. Holy shit. Whoa. Look at all these. This is like a treasure trove, dude. This is a treasure trove.
Damn, this guy's good.